What is up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 here of the RSL. I'm Tasteless, and joined with me is State. How you doing, buddy?
I'm excited, man. Day 2, and we already have what some people would probably call a group of death. Hero, SOS, Zoun, and Clem going to be fighting for 2 more spots in that playoff bracket. I'm excited.
I'm pumped, man. We had a couple little wrinkles we had to iron out on day 1, as we have in any live production. I think we've got, for overall, the sound should be improved. We'll see if the mixer dies. We got a story for that later on. And we did, I think it should be in 1080p on Twitch. So I'm pumped to be down here again. We have 3 Protosses today. So it's going to be a pretty Protoss-heavy day. Could be a quick one again as well, like we had yesterday.
Yeah, TVP feels like it's getting a little bit faster than it used to be. You know, it's a lot more aggressive. It's pretty explosive, especially when you have guys like Hero playing the matchup. I mean, he is not one to shy away from any sort of timing attack. So I think it's going to be a really fast-paced day, especially with PvP, having SOS and Zoun added into the mix. I mean, yesterday it felt like the games were fast enough already, but we might be even faster today.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to have SOS back here today. He's one of my favorite players for sure. Guys, we are very proud to be sponsored by Archon Studio. They are making the StarCraft tabletop miniature game. It's not out yet, but I would recommend you go to their website and check them out. We really appreciate their support. Pre-orders are going to open later this year.
Yeah, pretty exciting stuff. You know, tabletop miniatures are something that I never really got into in the past, but so many people that I know who are involved in strategy gaming and RTS just happen to be fans of it that I've always been curious, and the fact that we're going to have a StarCraft miniatures game has definitely piqued my interest, Tasteless. I'm excited for that to roll out. Of course, we're in a new era here in StarCraft 2. If you want to support the RSL, you can go to patreon.com/ReviveSC2. Check out these tiers right here. StarCraft 2, you know, not the same publisher support that we had in years gone past.
But it doesn't have to go away, guys. Consider signing up for our Patreon. We've got different tiers depending on what kind of support you can give. Any support is appreciated. You know, if you want a pretty good bang for your buck, I think the $25 tier is pretty awesome. It lets you get some voting rights for players, for maps, for stuff like that. So consider supporting us in our cause here. What I want to do, my whole vision for this tournament is to basically have something that is sustainable and we can kind of carry the torch onward in the future. One thing that's true about StarCraft 2 is that the games themselves are getting more and more interesting. You know, the more you pick StarCraft apart, the more fascinating it becomes. And so we just want to have something in a seasonal format similar to GSL that we can be putting out there to the world.
Yeah, and that Stalker tier there with the fan votes is actually so cool. Having players be able to join the tournament because of that, and then also having new maps like Antimatter, Kill Switch, the Grid added in. Very exciting stuff. And, of course, if you support us on Patreon, you do get a 20% discount on all Tasteless TV merch, tastelessthreads.com. All sorts of things to keep you warm.
That's right. Well, we got T-shirts, we got hoodies, we got muds. It's another way to support the show here, so consider checking them out. Our schedule, it's a little bit jam-packed here. We are going to have next week off because Home Story Cup will be going on. But if you're joining us now live, you can come in tomorrow and the day after. We're going to be moving through the entire group section this week, and then we'll be picking up. The dates will move, and this may not really resemble what future tournaments are going to look like. We may have it a little bit more spread out, but we wanted to get this entire season out and done before EWC started, which is just around the corner.
Yeah, EWC kind of has a timer on a lot of the events going on around the world right now. As we take a look here at the groups, of course, Kirim Byun, some pretty impressive performances. Spirit off-racing his Protoss was very fun there in Group A, saved us from an entire day of TVT, and Percival had a good showing, but it's going to be the 2 hard-hitting Terrans that advance. And here in Group B, personally, I'm having a hard time choosing. I think that Clem and Hero are obviously the favorites to make it in, but Zoun has had some really good performances recently, just across the world in StarCraft 2, even snapping, I think it was like an 11 best-of-3 loss streak versus Hero or something absurd like that in GSL just a couple of weeks ago. And SOS, he's always a wild card. In a group with so many PvPs, you're expecting his tricks to be very, very effective here.
Yeah, you know, it's weird, you know, considering SOS's history, to say that he's probably the lowest likely to get out of this group. But I think the reality is, I mean, Clem and Hero are looking so strong. And we just saw how impressive Zoun was in this GSL. Group C and D are going to be on here tomorrow. But, yeah, it's going to be an exciting week to kind of power through this and then see, you know, who's going to be surviving to move on to the next level.
Yeah, and it is so good to have SOS back. I know that he took kind of a long break from StarCraft 2 for some time, and I think it was maybe last year. You could tell that he was kind of dipping his toe back in the pool a little bit, testing the water. You could see, I stalk all the pro gamers, their ladder accounts, and I was like, oh, SOS is playing some games. That's interesting. And then we saw him in some GSL qualifiers last year. Eventually, he made it back into Code S, and now he's here in RSL.
Yeah, it's cool. We're in this era where a lot of the guys have returned from their military service. In some cases, people were saying that, okay, when you go to the military, which all young Korean men have to do, you're not allowed to earn any money, which means you can't be a pro gamer, so the practice falls off. And people would say, well, then that's going to be the death of your career. But for a lot of these guys, we're in like a post-military era where they've all returned and they're back to playing. And so,
if I'm not mistaken, I think the top 4 we had in GSL like a week ago, I think that was 4 post-military players who made it in, which is just an entirely new stage.
It's like a funny thing, too, because I remember growing up and people were saying, like, well, when you get older, your hands will slow down, or your brain hardens, or that,
calcifies, it becomes a shell.
Alzheimer's kicks in. No, that like you won't be able to compete, you won't be able to play in your older age. And we're seeing with both StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2, it's not really the case.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I remember White Raw was the person people would talk about this a lot back in the day of like Wings of Liberty. I can't remember exactly how old he was in the Wings of Liberty.
Or Nest T.
Yeah.
He was like the only guy who was 30. But yeah, the same thing with White Raw. I think White Raw is like a couple years older than me, and I'm 40. But yeah, it was the same thing of like, oh, well, eventually you're not going to be able to be viable or compete. And
then, these people were like late 20s, early 30s. Yeah. And now, I mean, like Hero just won a GSL Code S. I think he's past 30.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's cool to see everybody coming back and duking it out. And I think we're going to be starting this game in a second. Yeah, game 1 is now going to be loading up, guys. Going into our first match, a PvP, we're going to see Hero here versus SOS. And yeah, see if SOS can compete at all with Hero, who just won a GSL recently.
All right, spawning down in the bottom left, the red Protoss player Hero. The top right, the blue Protoss player SOS. And I think we're in for a fantastic day of PvPs. That's gonna be a lot of fun, Tasteless.
Yeah, man. Always love a good PvP. I've always found it interesting to see how each of the openers is going to interact with each other, because there's so many different ways to play PvP. With the Cybernetic score, you basically get this definitive fork into specific directions in the matchup. Kind of unlike TVT as an example. TVT, we either see what we always see barracks, a factory starport, right? It's kind of what you choose to make out of those structures, where for Protoss, you make a cybernetic score and it's like, boom, a robo. That's a very specific type of game. Or, boom, a Stargate. Then we're going to go in this direction. Or a fast expand. And so there's a lot of different ways that the build orders can interact.
Yeah, PvP mid-game kind of feels a little bit... Solved might be the wrong word here in Korea, but there's a defined meta, as these probes barely do not glimpse each other, where people just expand very rapidly. They play extremely low-tech styles, typically with a lot of stalkers into a lot of zealots, not even occasionally mixing in Archons, just instead opting to stick on 2 or 3 Gas Geysers. But in terms of openings, there is a very wide range of all-ins. You would think that things would move away from this. I believe it was Stats, a number of, maybe a year or 2 ago, who was kind of revolutionizing PvP in the early game a little bit with his, I think it was like double or triple sentry opening. And you would think that with energy recharge available, that would just become even better and expansions would be rock solid. But somehow, Chaos, it finds a way. People are still doing some pretty crazy builds, some pretty wild all-ins. And here in game number 1 between Hero and SOS, we already have a proxy pylon here and potentially a Stargate or a Robo going down.
Look
that core
has
to be done.
The probe's on the low ground, which I find interesting. Is he going to make... Maybe it's going to be a Robo there?
I think so.
I feel like if he's going to go all... Yeah, it's... Okay. God, I'm good. So yeah, the Robo is going to be placed down there, and basically this is probably going to give him a pretty strong Immortal push. So Hero, going for the kill move here.
Yeah, and SOS going for a 1-gate expand. He made a Zealot, but he's not checking where that Robo is. He did spot the probe, and he didn't see that probe move out on the map with his scouting probe. And so he might be wondering himself, oh, when did that probe actually get there? If this probe was on the map before my probe reached my opponent's base, why didn't it scout me? Surely there's some kind of proxy. These are the kind of things that SOS is probably thinking. With this hallucination, he's just going to opt for the guaranteed scout. He's going to double-check the expansion. He's going to double-check the main base of Hero, and immediately alarm bells should be ringing. There is an attack on the way, and for SOS, he's going to be opting for the second gateway and the Stargate. This is a pretty solid response, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be safe here against this opening.
Yeah, the sentries, he could try to go for one, but he wants to back up a little bit. He's basically going to pack his punch for when this Warp Prism comes out. And it is going to be a Warp Prism first here. I thought this might be some kind of an Immortal bust coming down here. We'll see if he makes one later on, but this is a little bit of a different type of rush. It's also possible he could, like, chuck 2 Adepts into the main with the Warp Prism and maybe go for kills there. Or he could try to just, you know, railroad through the front door here.
I feel like it's got to be Adepts in the main base, almost certainly here.
Yeah.
All right, Warp Prism, Adepts. There is a Stalker in position, but Hero pays it no mind. He's still going to come into the main. The Void Ray just now starting here for SOS as these Adepts going to start working on this mineral line already. A couple of probes going down. 3 in total. Hero, he's hoping for more. These Shades going down in natural expansion. I feel like it's not very saturated just yet. There is going to be a Shade. One more probe kill will be found. And behind it, Hero, he is expanding, so there isn't going to be any kind of Immortal follow-up, although we do have a couple more Adepts warping in the main base, Tasteless.
Yeah, this is an interesting play here. He's basically picking off a lot of probes. He's already up to 17 to 26, and I think he's going to get a couple more. And, you know, with that, the Warp Prism's driven away, but you can create a pin with this, right? You can warp in a few more Adepts and basically generate a threat and come back in there if SOS decides to move across the map.
Yeah, the initial round of Adepts didn't get too much done, but the follow-up warp in there in the main base and then the subsequent Shades that followed. We have 12 probes going down. Hero's Nexus is about to finish. He's almost doubling the worker count right now of his opponent, and let me tell you, Void Rays are not an easy unit to move across the map and go for a counterattack with. And so SOS is just kind of going to be taking this L. He's almost down to 12 workers. You start the game with 12 probes.
Yeah. It's actually insane, the shape that SOS is. It almost doesn't matter what exactly he wants to do.
He has to attack.
Yeah, he's going to go for an all-in counterattack. And look, it's not exactly like Hero has a ton back here. I mean, his harass wasn't without sacrifice. It, once again, is going to move past the Robo. I guess it doesn't really matter that much. What's really more important here is that Hero survives this initial attack from SOS.
Yeah, this is SOS's one chance in this game, basically, to equalize, and it's just a pure Void Ray. There's no Robo, there's no Warp Prism, there's no Blink or other Twilight Council upgrade coming on the way, and he has to find some damage right here, right now, to try and get back on the board. These Adepts going to shade into the main base. Moving forward, there's at least... Oh, there's a lot of force fields available here for SOS. It's a pretty nice engagement to start things off. That Void Ray is going to activate its beam, going to work on that shield battery right now. Pylon, shield battery is blocking the main base ramp. Another force field. Ooh, catching 2 of these Stalkers. Pretty good start here for SOS thus far, but keep in mind, Hero, his economy is just through the roof, and he doesn't even need to pull the probes. That was
brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, SOS absolutely getting savaged back there. I like it. I mean, the Adepts getting in there, just killing enough workers. It's really hard to ever catch up with them. Once they get inside the main, they can go shade right back out, get more workers down there in the bottom. And, I mean, he was, like you said, down to 12 probes. Insane. He's so low. The counterattack, I mean, it has no muscle behind it. He has nothing that he can produce that's useful. The Void Ray, in that moment, is not even particularly useful. It's kind of nice to have because you can drive away the Warp Prism, but for, like, a counterattack like that, it's not going to do a lot.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the fight, SOS, his control was really good. The force fields were perfect.
Yeah.
The Void Ray was taking the shield battery. Everything was going well, but it's like, yeah, there's no follow-up. There's literally no economy behind this. We have no reinforcements coming, and Hero, meanwhile, is, like, what, double, triple the eco?
Yeah. We never got to really see what SOS had planned in that game. Hero going for aggression early on. But yeah, I like the proxy robo like that. I thought for a second it might be like Immortal and then Warp Prism, and he's going to try to micro at the front and bust him down that way. I've seen that before. But when you look at the Adept Shade, that's so straightforward and extremely strong.
Yeah, the Adepts got a lot done. You know, I wasn't too impressed after the initial drop in the main base because I think it only killed 3 workers, maybe 4. But then the Shades coming in from the natural expansion, plus him being able to deploy that warp prism in the corner of the main base and warp in 2 more adepts,
Yeah.
there's just literally so many adepts in the main base. SOS could do nothing. Like, you're killing them as fast as you possibly can, but there are so many adepts. They're already all in the mineral line, and, you know, Hero's the kind of guy that's going to be microing every individual pair of 2 adepts, 2 adepts, 2 adepts, 2 adepts, killing 3, 4 probes at a time with each volley. That was some pretty intense harass, and we're already moving to game number 2. Our game has loaded up. Let's get into it. Spawning in the top, oh no, the bottom left, our red Protoss player, Hero, SOS, the blue Protoss in the top right.
Yeah. Hopefully SOS gets to, you know, show us what he's got this time around. You know, Hero kind of going for the knees there, shutting the game down immediately before it really started. You know, a long time ago I said SOS was my favorite RTS player. I think even to this day he probably still is, just because, and I've casted everybody, right? But he has done the most creative stuff I've ever seen. Like, he's made some of the most special games that I've ever seen out there. He's like the RTS player's player. You know what I'm saying?
He's a real Protoss's Protoss.
Yeah, he's the Protoss's Protoss for sure. So, yeah, let's see if he can have some cool games here. But there's no shame in losing to Hero. I mean, Hero is basically the best Protoss in Korea at certain periods of time. So, yeah, let's see if we can get to a Game 3 here if this is going to be a 2-0.
I think peak SOS is probably my favorite era of domination of any Protoss player we've ever had, or really any pro gamer. He was just an entirely different beast. And it's kind of frustrating at times too, as a student of the game, somebody who plays and tries to model their play behind the pro players, because SOS has always been one of these guys who you see him win world championships. He famously shows up and, like, if there's 6 figures, that's when you're getting peak SOS, right? Like, he shines on the biggest stages, but then you try and copy what he does. It is not, you cannot quantify the SOS factor in a build order. You cannot look at this guy and be like, I'm just going to do the SOS build and have it work.
I feel like he might have the best intuition that I've ever seen. Like, he can look at a really weird situation and be like, oh, I got it. I can solve this. Where, you know, a lot of players, even some of the best in the world, you'll see them kind of fumbling, or they've got roughly an idea of how to handle it. He's always blown me away with that. That being said, he's not in the kind of shape he was in before.
No, I think just taking a break from StarCraft 2's been a little bit of a toll on him, but, you know, still absolutely a legend of the game, and obviously good enough to qualify here for RSL.
Yeah, no, happy to have him here. This game, it's going to be SOS going with a quick expand. I didn't actually see the tech yet here for Hero.
I don't think we have one thrown down.
What's in the bottom right? I think that's a pylon.
I think it's literally just a pylon, unless I'm mistaken. I think this is the kind of thing where, you know, Hero goes for a proxy robo in game number 1, and now here in game number 2, SOS, he scouts and he sees, oh, you have a pylon missing. What is the follow-up?
Exactly. Yeah, there's something to just hiding the pylon and then not using it. And then when you get scouted, they go, there's no pylon here. There must be a proxy, when in fact, you know, they're scouting and they're never going to find anything.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a 4-stalker opening into an expansion, which is not too bad here against the 1-gate play that SOS is trying. These stalkers are going to get here well before this shield battery is done.
So he's going to come up here now. He's going to try to target this 1 sentry, and he just gets out of range there. Had to burn the force field, but definitely worthwhile. We have 1 stalker about to pop out here. He's going to try to come down once more. The shield battery's here, and the sentries are pissed. They're going to drive him back.
Some angry bees, man. They're zapping as best they possibly can. Not too much damage being done there to the stalkers, but for Hero, just any kind of pressure he can mount is really good. And also draining the energy. Oh, SOS actually canceled, I think, the 2nd shield battery. He's going to drop some force fields now, able to isolate one of these stalkers from Hero. That's a lot of energy, though.
Was it worth it? Was it worth this 1 stalker for 4 force fields? Another sentry is going to come back here. This is revenge of the sentries over here.
Yeah, probes getting pulled too. SOS can afford to lose a couple of probes, and Hero, you know, in the end, he's trading, I think, 3 stalkers for even oh man, Revenge of the Sentries Part 2.
The Battle of the Sentries.
Yeah, this is a riveting early game.
2, tasteless. I'm like, all right, I get it. I know we think of you as support units, but yes, you can fight.
We're really good versus shields, tasteless.
Yeah. We can edit the map in special ways with our force fields. So he's going to take this out.
Such a funny little dance. Hero behind this, by the way, does have an expansion. SOS, he hasn't stopped their worker production, so he has a little bit more. But in terms of income, Hero has definitely been mining quite considerably more than his opponent over the past couple of minutes. And I think I saw in the production tab a Trolley Council to Forge. I think those are done, although Yeah, +1 is starting out. I'm sure Blink will soon follow. And this is, finally, we have the energy recharge coming in to that shield battery. I think it's the first recharge we have had of that shield battery so far in this game. SOS are just constantly like, you know what, I don't need it, I don't need it. And finally, this second reinforcement wave of sentries comes like, okay, fine.
So the War Prism's coming out. We could have some counterplay here from SOS, who did basically manage to save his expansion. We got the Forge upgrading +1 attack. And so... you know, you can see this is a pretty heavy investment into the late game, but there's going to be a third Nexus really fast. This feels kind of unsafe, but maybe he can get away with it. I
think that he knows, just based on how many units that Hero pumped out from those two gateways, that Blink is probably going to be pretty late here for Hero. You know, Hero, when you levy that kind of pressure in the early game, and obviously you are expanding behind it, it means that you don't really have a lot more opportunity to get damage done in the mid game, besides some drops like this, as I'm sure SOS has some PTSD from the previous map with Forge dropping in the main
I'll
like
just
this.
Go back and do this. This worked way better the first time.
Oh, man. This is nasty, because they can just go right back into that War Prism, too. We don't have a Twilight Council done yet for SOS. Hero has just finished, actually, so it was the Forge, not the Twilight Council finishing earlier on. And that means that this War Prism, there's not really anything that can kill it. Hero can just do moves like this with Shades, with a War Prism, and pick off 5 probes and just happily squeak right back on out. And it's actually going to be a Glaive solo up here from Hero.
Yeah, going for the Glaives here.
It's going to be a big timing attack, I think.
Yeah, so he's going to have to... It's going to be SOS probably on the receiving end over here. Looks like he might be doing a little bit of harass on his own. Same thing here with Hero, looping around with that War Prism going back into the main. 3 bases is really where you do get quite strained trying to defend everything. If you don't have something that can just, like, chase down the War Prism, yeah, you can really take a beating.
We have both players going Glaives, by the way. It's a special kind of game. All right, these Adepts able to pick off 3 more probes. War Prism going to be shifting back into the main base. God, this is so annoying here for SOS. Like, Adepts are pretty good against Adepts, but they're very bad against War Prisms. They can't shoot up Tasteless, and so this thing is just flying everywhere. And there's literally, I'm quite sure there is no Stalkers on the field right now for SOS, so he basically just has to watch this thing keep moving. He's going to do a drop of his own right now in the main base of Hero. I think so far only 1 probe going down, so not really finding the same damage that Hero was able to get.
Yeah, he's going to come in here, try to get as many probes as he possibly can. Can't get that last Adept in there. The War Prism's too full. And, yeah, I mean, Glaives nearing its completion here. We'll probably see the push out here from Hero momentarily. They're both going to have Glaives done at the same time, which is going to basically, they're going to neutralize it. It becomes neutralized, basically. Nobody's going to have an edge as far as that goes.
I don't know when the last time I saw a game where we had Glaives versus Glaives in a PvP like this. I feel like it basically never happens. No, Glaives is already kind of niche as a timing attack.
It's funny that you were saying that. I was thinking the same thing. I thought, I don't feel like I cast games where they both go Glaives. There is, you know, these more rare builds or rare techs, and it's always funny when you see them go into each other here. We've got the attack coming in. He's going to try to shade through. This is a pretty crazy arc here for SOS, but it's not going to matter in the end. There's just too much damage coming out here from Hero. And, man, I mean, just smashes that. SOS going to be sent back home here. This Adept going to be cleaned up. And over here, we're about to have Armor finish up. Attack is going to be finishing up here momentarily here for SOS. But right now, SOS is a little bit smaller in size. I think the counterattack could be devastating. We'll see if we can get some force fields up here and make it work, though.
Yeah, Hero already with 1-1 done has been a big boon as... We're going to wait and see. SOS is about to equalize in supply, though. He dipped down quite a bit, and his worker count is still considerably lower than his opponent's, but he might have enough to hold on, although with only 1 shield battery, it's going to come a lot down to the control, especially with these force fields. Right now, Hero already getting a huge angle on this third base. That Nexus is basically dead to rights. These Immortals going to take it down so quickly, especially with the sentries there to equalize. I mean, there's not enough energy for 1 more force field to completely section this off as the fight's going to continue here. These Adepts trying to get in range. Nexus so close to going down already. Hero losing 7 probes back at home, however.
Yeah, I mean, SOS basically has to try to hold this now, or he's going to fall apart.
Wow.
And there are enough Adepts. I don't know if the shade up top was maybe the right move or not. I guess you can switch what was a push into a harass, right? But, you know, the Immortals were unable to be covered over there, and so the Immortals had to back off. He's going to drop, is this 2 Immortals here, right? Yeah. He's going to drop these off up in the main. Meanwhile, the Warp Prism for SOS is inactive.
Man, I thought for sure that third base was going to go down. Those two Immortals in the Warp Prism might just drop and go for it again because it's so low on HP right now. We see just on the mini-map another Warp Prism done right now for SOS. So SOS with 2 Warp Prisms, Hero with 1, and nothing but Glaive Adepts just flying everywhere, throwing shades. This is a pretty wild game. It's so funny that you don't want to make Stalkers in a situation like this one where both players have Immortals and both players are spamming Adepts. Which means that we just have these Warp Prisms that are flying around uncontested in both main bases. It is quite comical.
Yeah, it's going to be 4 bases here for SOS. He's going to just expand in spite that heavy harass over there. I want to point out, they're even in workers. I mean, SOS took a beating, but the reality is he's fine. And in fact, in some ways, he's now outgrowing Hero here, who has yet to take a 4th base. I guess that Warp Prism's going to stay back there for the time being. You can always use that later on when the next big push comes out. The Warp Prism's going to glide by this Nexus, and that's going to show Hero to him that he's actually behind. He needs to start growing and trying to play catch-up here. The Immortals are going to drop, and I guess they'll be denied by these other Immortals coming up here now.
It's the only kind of Immortals in a Warp Prism is more Immortals in a Warp Prism.
Yeah, of course, the counter to this. So we got a push coming up here for Hero. And it's actually going to be a big counterattack here. I'm not quite sure how this is going to size up. This first Immortal is going to get picked off, and he's going to recall some of this, but the clump was so big he couldn't recall all of it. But with this, the Guardian Shield, the Immortals, the Stalkers, I don't think the Adepts can fight.
Yeah, this is actually a better engagement here for the Stalkers just because SOS has none of the Immortals here on the front line. It's just pure Adepts, and the Stalkers, even though they kind of struggle a little bit in close range against the the lower range Adepts, when you have them in numbers like that, they are just going to take the better trades. SOS in the main, though, with this Warp Prism, is able to find some more damage. With Stalkers warping in, that Warp Prism finally is going to get cleaned up. With SOS taking a 5th base now all the way in the top left. I mean, SOS is about to have like 10 workers per expansion at this point. The rate of expansion is so... The difference between the rate of expansion and how many probes we have falling is kind of insane in this game. It's a very different pace of PvP than we typically get. As we've had 70 Adepts go down for SOS over the course of this game, but going for a 5th base against a Hero who is only on 3 Nexus, and SOS also just sacrificed a lot of units trying to get some economic damage done. I wonder if that was a little bit too greedy in terms of decision-making, because this counterattack that Hero's about to do is going to pack such a wallop. I am not sure SOS can hold on.
Yeah, this push is going to come up, and I like the idea of SOS taking that top left base, but when I saw him do it, I kind of thought, oh, can you actually afford that? And this is so much here from Hero. He's going to blink right on top of that and take out each of these Immortals.
Yeah, that is a massive warp-in on the front line, too. It does get canceled there for a moment as Hero just does not want to body block his own army. He just wants to stutter step forward to victory. That's going to be a 2-0 win for Hero. Really an interesting game. You do not see Glaive Adept versus Glaive Adept very often, and I feel like usually if you do, the game is over pretty quick, but we had SOS even attempting to go up to 5 bases there is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I like that game a lot more. We got to see, how strong SOS is as a player. He was able to hang with Hero, but kind of some interesting decisions there. Like, I don't know about the Adept counterattack that we saw there. I think he might have thrown away the bulk of what he had, and he kind of fed into Hero in the end there. And then that last, I mean, it might have not mattered in that game anyways, but that last extra hidden expansion, that felt a little off tempo-wise.
Yeah, it seemed like he was going for a little bit more than he could chew. You're trying to trade your army to kill probes, and at the same time you're expanding 2 bases ahead of your opponent. I mean, if Hero sits back in his base and just defends, then of course you're going to be ahead. But Hero, if there's anything we know about him, he loves to attack. And so he sees this army get sacrificed, and he also sees the probes getting transferred to that base in the top left, and he's like, all right, let's move on to the winner's match now.
Guys, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, breaking back together, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to go on to our second best of 3. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for waiting. We're going to be going on to our second best of 3 of the evening. This is going to be Zoun versus Clem.
Yeah, Zoun versus Clem. And I actually heard from production that today is Zoun's birthday. So
Yes.
I must say, Zoun, he's already been on a little bit of a hot streak recently. He had, I think, a top 4 finish in Bulgaria a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
He took a series off of Serral. He was looking very solid. And now it's his birthday, Tasteless. Birthday powers coming in
Birthday
against
privileges.
Clem.
I don't know, man. I think Clem might smoke him. Clem
Yeah.
has been in incredible shape. Obviously, the former world champion from EWC.
Reigning world champion.
Yes, reigning world champion. And, you know, Clem's an interesting character because he started playing when he was so young. Like, he's literally younger than StarCraft 1.
Oh,
Like,
is he really?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
we're getting old.
I think he's 23. StarCraft 1's 25 years old now. Maybe it's 26, actually. But, you know, he was so young. I remember hearing about Clem when I was going to international tournaments, but he was too young to be allowed to compete. There's some rule. I think you have to be, like, over 15. I don't know if this was Blizzard.
That's
or
a
if it
young
was-
age, too. Wow.
Yeah, or maybe he was maybe you have to be 15, and if you're younger than that, you're not allowed to. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but anyways, yeah, when he finally started getting to compete, it was like, oh, this guy's like so tournament viable. He's basically been living in StarCraft his entire life, so should be a fun match. But then again, you know, as you were saying, Zoun has really looked strong lately. He had a very strong showing when he first showed up to GSL. I remember when Artosis and I were casting together, we were both kind of like, oh my God, there's like a new player in GSL, because we're so used to casting, you know, the same, like, I don't know, 20 guys over and over again. But, you know, he showed up, he looked really strong. And then I felt like he kind of took a back seat. But this year, it looks like he never stopped practicing. He's looked really confident. His performance has been excellent.
Yeah, we had that, 10-month hiatus after EWC before the circuit kind of started up again. And when we came back, there was this fog of war about the quality of all the different players, because it was kind of apparent that some of them weren't practicing full-time. Some of them most likely were. Some of them probably took extended vacations, which, again, totally understandable given the state of
Well,
StarCraft
there was like
2
a
at the time.
dark ages for StarCraft 2. This has happened like a few times before. There was some time when Blizzard, it took a while to kind of sort out the tournament schedule. And I remember I didn't cast for like 5 months. This was years and years ago. But then this one, it was like 10 months off. So, you know, a lot of players weren't sure what, you know, the future was. So they stopped practicing. I think we saw this a little bit with Spirit, you know, yesterday. He didn't look to be in great shape. I think that's one of the reasons why he decided to off race and go with Protoss. But yeah, you know, it just felt, it didn't feel that strong. But Zoun, on the other hand, has looked really good.
Yeah, he's looked better. And so it seems like whatever he did during the offseason absolutely worked for him, because his PVT and his PVZ especially are kind of through the roof right now. Just something about the current meta, the current maps, the current patch just really works cohesively with his playstyle so well. And up until this point, it's really been his PvP that's been holding him back, at least in Korea. He's been struggling against some players like Hero for, like, dating back to 2024. He kind of had to get that monkey off of his back, winning a best of 3 against him in GSL a couple of weeks ago. But now here we are. He's going to be going up against Clem in just a moment. And I'm really excited for Zoun, man. Not just in RSL, but in the future, because as you said, we've had for a long time kind of the same familiar faces. And now Zoun is one of those faces, but he's a guy that you would expect in the GSL, for instance. You expect him kind of get knocked out in the round of 16 or the round of 12. If he makes it to the round of 8, that's probably as far as he's going to go. But I would say that given the performances that he's been showcasing in online tournaments and tournaments around the world, this is a guy that potentially could be a championship contender this year. I think there's a lot of mystery about what he's capable of doing, because we've clearly seen that the highs with Zoun are so high. It's just, can he consistently deliver that performance?
Yeah, when it comes to Clem, I'm curious how he's going to perform in this RSL, but also at EWC. There was a period where we had just the Koreans dominating, right? And there was a lot of people kind of saying, well, non-Koreans or foreigners ever catch up? Will they ever actually be competitive? And eventually it happened, right? And I think the biggest player for that was Cyril. Cyril, and then Raynor as well. But Cyril kind of came out and looked indestructible. And then at EWC, it was Clem that finally actually usurped him in a pretty one-sided finals.
Yeah, Clem just kind of feels like he can do literally everything. And I feel like his skills are most best put on display in TVZ, because this is a guy who, I think it was Raynor, he was casting or analyze, or he was having a conversation about Clem's playstyle in ZVT, and he said, from like the very first moments when that first Reaper gets cross map and it reaches your hatchery, the pressure is on, and he forces mistakes out of his opponents just by how good his control is and his map presence and how persistent he is, attacking nonstop. Even if you're able to deflect the attack, you're probably doing it at the expense of, your drones. The next round of drones are going to be later. Or maybe you're getting supply block. You're missing some pylons.
Right.
You're delaying your Forge or Twilight Council by 10 to 15 seconds because you have to deal with this one attack that's coming in a little bit faster than you expect, or is being controlled better than you expect. And then, like in the EWC finals especially, you think of this, okay, well, typically players, they kind of have this stage in the game where they are at their best. Like, we think of some guys who are just absolute killers in the early game, and then they start to drop off in the late game. But then you see Clem just deliver the best possible version of Ghost Mech we have ever seen in EWC, and it literally looks unbeatable. Like, I remember watching you cast that finals, and I'm like, I don't know how you stop this thing. Like, how do you possibly defuse the ticking time bomb that is a Clem who is going down to like 40, 30 SCVs, has absorbed his entire half of the map, who has this god tier army? He can truly do absolutely everything. I feel like Clem in the current state of the game has probably been the most complete player that StarCraft 2 has ever seen. It's either him or Cyril in some stage, in my opinion. Maybe peak Maru when he was winning like every other GSL. There's been very few moments where you get somebody that truly is the complete package.
Yeah, just looking absolutely unstoppable there. We had our players on cam a minute ago. It looked like Zoun was being rendered into reality. Where
oh, I didn't catch that, actually. Oh, we got another. Yeah, look at this.
He's
He's warping in right now, man. Yeah, we got to add some kind of particle effects on him. This is a guy who's like, man, can I go over to your place and like mess with your OBS settings to help you adjust the green screen sliders a little bit?
I think there's been a small delay here. I think what we'll do, we're going to cut to a short break, guys. When we come back, we'll be going into this match, and we'll be doing that shortly here. All right, guys, we're back. Clem here in the bottom left, Zoun in the top right. I guess the map vetoing was taking a little bit longer than we expected.
These guys are playing 4D chess,
Yeah.
tasteless.
So, yeah, we've got Zoun over here in the top right. Going to throw his first pylon down here. And let's see what kind of game these guys are going to give us. Again, I feel like Zoun has probably been in better shape than ever before.
Clem, a little bit of jitters. Your first map jitters through that. The supply depot slightly off center. Had to cancel and rebuild. 25 minerals down the drain.
That is actually a really bad sign when your first building is misplaced or you like forget a worker or something like that. So good catch there by Mapu. We're going to go ahead and go with this wall in. And let's talk a little bit about PVT in general because this is the matchup. At least it's gotten a lot of attention from me. But, you know, people are always complaining about Protoss in general.
Always have been.
Always have been.
Always will be.
And, you know, Protoss is a kind of uniquely frustrating race to play against, but it does in some ways have its limitations. I guess all the races do, right? That's what makes StarCraft interesting. But as of late, it just feels like that kind of defender Protoss style has been tough to beat. So I'm curious to see what kind of solutions Clem has, because Clem is kind of on the cutting edge. He's on the forefront of a lot of techniques from Terran. Like, does Terran need to go for more of a timing-based attack where you end the game before it gets to a certain point? Or does Clem have more of a, you know, kind of macro, go toe-to-toe with Protoss style of play that maybe we'll see instead?
I would actually say that I feel like the TVP meta, again, from the Terran perspective until lately, has been a little bit too timing attack focused. I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing this style from Protoss be so successful, is because you basically have every single Protoss player in the world right now in these pro matches, in the high ranks of the ladder. They get into a PBT, and Terrans, they don't want to go into the mid game, they don't want to go into the late game, and so they make sacrifices to try and get something done earlier on. And whenever the meta hard shifts so much in that direction, it really simplifies the game from the Protoss perspective, because you're basically just bracing for impact right out of the gates, you know? Like, you find your game plan is basically, all right, what kind of attack is the Terran going to throw at me? How can I best navigate my build order to absorb the impact of that attack? And how am I going to deal with it? And Clem, from everything that I have seen, seems to be the Terran player who is arguably the most confident in just going into a mid game or going into a late game and playing the standard typical bio style 3 racks, 5 racks, 8 racks that you would expect to see from a Terran player in TVP in years gone past. And I feel like in the current meta, just because every other Terran player is so aggro and so timing attack oriented, I really like that approach coming out from Clem. So I'm hoping he showcases the same thing here. Starting out this map, we actually have some pretty heavy gateway pressure coming in from Zoun. This Zealot and Stalker both chrono boosted out. 2 Reapers going to be the opening units coming in from Clem. He is able to get the depot wall up, but keep in mind that command center, although it's close to completion, it is not done just yet. So these Reapers are going to have to come back, but they are not the best units at fighting. They're going to be trying to get to work on that Stalker. Of course, if the Stalker falls, then suddenly Clem can just basically micro everything, everything until it's dead, as he's even going to be lifting up the Widow Mine there for a moment. Didn't want to get any splash damage on his SCVs, but
he's going to get a deny again on the command center. And so, you know, it's one of these moments where, like, that's probably one of the most painful things a Terran can deal with is command center on low ground into, like, a really basic aggro rush that slows everything down. Behind this, Zoun has been mining. He's got a really healthy economy. He's getting his robo, kind of reminding me a little bit of you know, what we saw from Spirit the other day. We'll see if this is going to be directly into Colossus tech or not. But only just now did the command center finish. We see the orbital starting. And so we're going to have SCVs transferred over there. But, I mean, this is really bad. Clem's going to need to do something with this counterattack and try to play catch-up, because right now Zoun is looking really good.
Yeah, Classic is another one of these players who's been really a big fan of the double chrono boost on the gateway. And if you think about chrono boost as a resource, you're basically just losing 1 probe to be able to levy that pressure against the Terran. In this game, absolutely worth it. Is now Clem coming in to the natural expansion. Marines dropping first. Widow Mine is going to follow, of course, a little bit bruised from that last attack, but it will be able to burrow. A lot of lost mining time here for the Protoss player, but in the end, only 1 probe going down. And for Clem so far, just kind of standard stuff in terms of development. He is adding in additional barracks now, but just Siege Tank, Raven churning out. We might have some kind of mid-game play in terms of the timing attack, probably targeting this 3rd base from Zoun. What I'm wondering is, how heavy is the commitment going to be? Are we going to have a 3rd command center come in relatively quickly behind this, or is Clem going to lean really, really hard into the aggression?
Okay, so we've got the Raven about to pop out over here. Right now, Zoun, I mean, he's looking really strong. This third base is coming along. I'm sorry, was there a third command center that was made? I don't think so, right?
No, not yet.
No third CC yet. We've seen a lot of Terrans kind of slow play this, but right now Clem's going to be on the receiving end. Now, for what Clem has, this is what you probably need to try to fight this, but this could still do a lot of damage. He's going to blink in. God, the Raven would be a real juicy target if he could get in there.
Yeah, it might take 2 volleys. Oh, maybe only 1 now with all the damage it just took, but with double siege tank, that is a hard blink to commit to. You know you're going to lose a ton of stalkers. That's a Maru blink into the main base.
The way Terran's going to be fine with that is like the siege tank triangle setup. There's the one on the low ground, one kind of close to the ramp, and then one in the main.
They're all just covering each other a little bit.
Yeah, and then it's like you just can't get in there. We used to see this Blink Stalker play like do devastating damage. Like get in there and like we saw the stim being upgraded there a second ago. They'd get in there and get that. But for now, I mean, Zoun, he doesn't have to do a whole lot other than just keep propelling himself forward here. There's no need to try to attack in if the siege tanks are already set up. Better to stay back and, wait for them to leave their base than to overextend and take damage. We've got 5 gateways coming down here. We have Zealot Charge going up. We just now saw the Robo support bay begin to warp in. And so this is Protoss getting each of the building blocks necessary to fight a late-game Terran army. And it does seem like, once you've got the Colossus, it's harder for Terran. But then it's the Storm after that. It's even more impossible. Then it's the Disruptors. And so we see that get layered on, and a lot of Terrans just don't seem to be very viable in kind of late game, end game situations like that. So we're going to wait and see Clem push out, but even seeing the third command center starting now inside the main, I feel like Clem not so much going for any kind of timing to end the game, but instead trying to hang in late game here.
Ooh, 3 medevacs loading up right now for Clem. Zoun, his stalkers are actually right in position at the 9 o'clock to try and catch this. I think Clem, with the line of sight blocker right there, going on the high ground, he spotted the stalkers, pivoted a little bit to the left, and Zoun is none the wiser about this drop coming across the map. Now, I want to talk really quickly about what Zoun is doing. He's going into Colossus tech and +2 ground weapons. He's doing this on 3 gases, and he had a long probe cut, so the amount of muscle, gateway unit and muscle that will be with this army here for Zoun is absolutely massive. I feel like that's pretty scary here for Clem if you're going to be attacking into it, because this army is well equipped to deal with what Clem is throwing at him. Luckily, only 1 stalker here, so these medevacs are going to be able to move into the main base. Do we have a recall from those stalkers in the front line? No, it looks like instead they're just going to be retreating through the center of the map. +2 ground weapons, probably going to get taken out here by the bio as it is dropping, and here's some nice, easy pickoffs here for Clem. This is the kind of approach that you want to be able to execute against a Protoss player playing Zoun style at only 3 gas geysers, because it's not like Zoun is going to be unlocking Storm or getting double Robo Colossus or getting a bunch of Forges, although now he's adding in 2 because he just lost the initial one. He's very bottlenecked on the gas, and he's not even taking a 4th base. He is basically saying, okay, you come attack me, I am going to effectively, all in might be the wrong word, but he is committing everything to trying to stop a push. If Clem continues to macro back and just go for this kind of chip damage, like dropping with the 3 medevacs, killing some units here and there, going for the forges, going for some infrastructure, getting some probes, then Clem's army in a couple of minutes, it's going to be a lot better than what Zoun has.
Yeah, I mean, Clem, I think he's winding up for that big attack, by the way. Slowing down the 4th was huge. We've got a lot of Widow Mines, a lot of tanks coming in here. And it looks like Zoun wants to meet this. Maybe not to fully commit and fight, but to at least force field this. No, never mind. He's going to just take a hit and back up. I thought he actually had more sentries than that in there. The counterattack is great because there's nothing protecting these SCVs. And unless Clem wins the game here, this is going to put Clem further behind.
Yeah, Zealot's charging in. And the 4th base gets canceled again here. Are we going to have an engagement? Guardian Shield is going to pop with the Stalkers. Zoun trying to kind of skim away the top on this bio ball a little bit. Stutter stepping into the range of that shield battery. No thermal lance just yet, so these Colossus have to be very careful with the micro. Wow, big blink forward there by Zoun. Very ambitious, but I guess with the front line of Zealots, it is enough for him to hold on. A very expensive trade from the Protoss perspective, and honestly, I'm looking at that one with Clem having the 3rd base. If it wasn't for the Zealot run by, which has gotten so much damage done, I'm really liking Clem's position because he kept all of the medevacs alive, but 20 SCVs falling is a lot of economic damage.
Yeah, I mean, Zoun definitely came out the winner there. You're always happy to trade your army if you also killed their workers in the process. And so with 21 SCVs down, and a much more meager push coming out this time around. You know, especially without the siege tanks, only one Widow Mine here. You know, a couple more Warp-ins, and I think Zoun should be okay. The question is going to be, what exactly does he have to try to fight this? I think I just saw Colossus for a split second on the bottom of the screen there. There was an Immortal there as well. One thing as well is when Protoss have these big fights, when they lose all of their Robotech, you know, the Tier 1 tech is fairly unsophisticated in these fights. So the Stalkers are going to come up. The Colossus and the Immortal are going to make it really hard to get anything done. There's enough Stalkers, too, that the Vikings can't really threaten the Colossus. It's so far in the back. And, you know, we've got another 4th base being taken over at 3 o'clock right now.
Some really good control with Clem, stutter stepping with the bio while also boosting those medevacs away from the Stalkers. The win condition right now for Clem, or at least one of the main advantages that he would love to retain as we enter the mid-game here, is just keeping all of these starport units alive. And the medevac count is so healthy right now that he is able to freely just reactor out these Vikings and have basically no concerns in the world for healing energy, for anything like that. Zoun, he hasn't been able to take the 4th base just yet, and so he's going to be double expanding. He has been shut down too much. That main base is starting to mine out. The natural expansion will follow very shortly here. And so he needs to start saturating these bases because he is playing a more low-tech style. I believe it's 3 Colossus with Thermal Lance now going into that Disruptor tech. And yes, his upgrades are pretty good. +2 ground weapons and +1 armor about to finish up. But in terms of actual refinement to the army, until the second Robo, which just got started, comes online, it's mostly the gateway units. And when you're relying on Stalkers and Zealots, a lot of it comes down to, you know, surface area. Are those Zealots be able to get a surround or at least very good coverage on the bio? Or is the bio ball going to get so large that it can basically shrug off any of these charges that come in, mitigate the damage, and then stutter step on top of the Disruptors, on top of the Colossi? And so even though Zoun has done a lot of economic damage, if Clem can find a window to get some counterpunch in before the 4th and the 5th base kick in for Zoun, which are just now coming online, there is a real possibility he gets big damage done.
So we've got another scan over here. Just took out the observer there. And now we're just looking at a map where, like, Protoss is getting too big. Terran doesn't feel like it can grow much more. I mean, maybe you can take, like, the upper left or the lower right. But, you know, if Zoun can secure these bases at the bottom right, looks like probes are actually already there, and just grow into the top left, I don't really know how you kill Protoss. This is kind of what I was talking about at the start of this game. Like, the further along we get, there's a point where Protoss just seem to be, with what Terran has, it's hard for them to engage, right? You know, especially with this SC2, the way the game's programmed, things bunch up, which makes splash damage insane. Splash damage in StarCraft 2 is way stronger than it is in StarCraft 1, just due to the way that units move so smoothly together. You know, when you see them, like, everything moving shoulder to shoulder like we have here with Terran. And, you know, at this point in time, I don't think Zoun has to play the defensive game. I think he could just move in here at 6 o'clock and push.
Yeah, I think this is a smart play. He is maxed, and this is his window to get some damage done. Big stim in from the bio is going to be able to micro away. Just one Marauder and a Widowmine taking a hit from that Disruptor shot. Follow-up shot. Oh, really big hit. Hits 5 or 6 Marauders right there. Very low on HP. The Viking count is so high. There's basically no splash damage left here on the front line for Zoun. One more Disruptor shot is going to come in. Does get diffused by the focus fire from the blue Terran player. There is, at the same time, a counterattack here on the natural expansion. Finally does get cleaned up. SCVs do fall. Beautiful split, dodging that one Disruptor shot, and now for Zoun, his army has no more big splash damage. I think there's maybe one Disruptor that was able to survive the fight, the one we see on screen right now, but it's basically just pure gateway armies. And yes, the upgrades are good. Yes, we do have +3 ground weapons and +2 armor. +3 armor and shields are starting up here for Zoun, but Clem, this gateway army, or this, not gateway army, this barracks army is looking very strong. Another really good split, just one Marauder, one Marine, taking damage from that Disruptor shot. And with still 8 medevacs alive, Clem securing this 4th base, Zoun is about to max out once more, but his army composition, it is almost pure Zealot. We have 30 Zealots on the field right now, and not that many Disruptors, no Colossi, no Storm. Clem is going to have to stutter step away.
He's going to try to come in now. These Disruptors are pretty far back. They can't be used. It does seem to be a pattern, by the way, with Zoun, where his Zealots lead a little bit too far, and Clem just kind of kills them off without the stuff in the back doing that much damage. But now we're going to see Zoun, you know, with the overwhelming supply he has, he's actually going to chase Clem all the way back to his natural.
Yeah, he is. Those Widowmine shots got some very big damage done on those Zealots. They are badly bruised, but this 4th and 5th base paying huge dividends for Zoun right now. I mean, he is playing on 4 gases. He is all minerals. Colossus production is starting up again, but the firepower here for Zoun, besides these 4 disruptors, it's basically just the Zealots. Even the Widow Mine dodging the disruptor shot. Nice micro there from Clem, and once again we have a charge in. The Zealot count, it's starting to thin. We do have a second wave that's going to be coming in with this disruptor shot. Bio is microing away. Got to be very careful here as Zoun, though, without disruptor shots. As soon as the Zealot count thins, everything is up for grabs here for Terran.
You know, I got to say, it's like Zoun kind of brought the game to where Protoss wants to be, but he's not able to finish the job off, if that makes sense. We've seen a couple of attacks in this game specifically where it's like Zoun's pursuing, but he needs to be regrouping. He needs to be fighting correctly. Like, we've had a couple moments where Clem is killing off, like, 12 Zealots when the Stalkers in the back, the Colossi, or the Disruptors in the back aren't even, like, firing. And the whole point is you need to get, like, this critical mass and then hit the right way. And he's not quite able to do that yet. He's going to chuck some disruptor balls in here. Does he not have an observer, by the way? I don't see one.
He might not actually have an observer here on the front line.
He's going to walk right into Widow Mines. I guess it won't matter. He's going to come in here now. GG. Clem is taken out. Ooh. Not the cleanest ending, but still a victory after all.
Yeah, that was a pretty exciting game. I honestly like the way that Clem played a little bit more than Zoun there in the mid game. I think a lot of it goes back to that Zealot run by killing 20+ SCVs.
Yeah, well, that I think was the most important part of the game. I thought we were going to see Clem do something like a little bit more decisive. Like, I think right now with the way PVT looks, I think you got to pull the boys. I think
You're a boy puller?
I'm a boy puller. That doesn't sound very good.
It doesn't. Yeah, okay.
Moving on. No, grab your workers, send them out, and try to just like kill the Protoss when they're on their third base. The more I watch these long games, the more I'm like, I don't normally say this, but I feel bad for Terran.
Wow.
For the first time in my whole life.
This is what happened to you, Tasteless?
As someone who's
You've been spending too much time with Artosis.
As someone who's always been a fan of watching Artosis experience the pain of losing to Protoss, I have to say, for the first time ever, I do feel bad for these Terran players. So, you know, we just finished up map 1. Zoun won. Again, and I don't want to be too critical. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking like I'm judging a diving contest, like it wasn't perfect play, but it did seem like he was a little shaky there.
Zoun was
at the end. He didn't quite have good execution, but I mean, the reality was he got the game to where it's easy for Protoss.
Yeah.
And by the way, because I think some people might say, well, is this OP? Is Protoss too strong right now? I don't know in this matchup, but I would say that there is always a matchup where one race is usually trying to kill the other one before they get to a point.
Yeah, that's typically the way it goes.
Yeah, like generally TVZ has been a matchup where you're trying to kill the Zerg before they get too big, right? Now, Maru kind of changed that matchup, you know, when he just proved that he'll just cut the map in half and just drag the game out until the Zerg runs out of money. But the way that I'm looking at this matchup right now, and I didn't always see PVT this way, and obviously we've casted different patches, but yeah, it just seems like the burden is on the Terran to try to do that. Anyways, in this game, we've got Zoun here at the top right. We've got Clem in the bottom left.
Yeah, I'm excited for another explosive mid-game here. I want to see Clem fully unleashed without a Zealot run by catching 20 SUVs because, you know, we talk about Zoun going for those engagements and them not being very clean. As you said, the Zealots, they're almost like half a screen ahead of the rest of the army. But when you play that style as Zoun, where I think it was not until 8 minutes where he took his 4th gas geyser. He was on 3 gas on 3 bases for the longest amount of time, and then only in like 8 or 9 minutes added in that 4th gas. You're playing so low tech. You're basically playing like a Zerg, where you're going to max, but you're maxing with a couple of key units. It was the initial wave, I think 3 Colossi, and then it was Disruptors. But the beef of your army is just pure Charge Zealot with, you know, a dozen or so Stalkers that you're hoping that you build in the early game as kind of this versatile group of units that can stutter step across the map and micro with Blink and try and really buy time against timing pushes, but is also useful for sniping down Vikings and medevacs and deflecting drops. But you don't really want to produce more of them because they aren't your big heavy damage dealers, right? And so from Zoun, he's dumping all of his gas, these 3 or 4 Vespene geysers, into 1 Forge or 2 Forges, and he has 1 or 2 Robos that are pumping out units. That isn't a lot of tech. We don't have additional splash damage coming in. He cannot afford to go into Storm if he wants to play that style. You'll need to take extra gases. And so he's going to max out really quickly on a high number of Zealots. And when you have an army like that one, you do not want Terran player to max out. You are definitely going to max out before them because you're expanding at such a rapid rate and you're playing a lower tech style. You need to fight them when you hit a max supply. And in a situation like that one, you're trying to force the engagement and Clem is in the middle of the map. You really do just need to charge in, and you cannot pull back those zealots. You need to commit and try and just keep chasing and chasing and chasing until a zealot, or not a zealot, the Terran hits a wall back at home and finally has to fight you and doesn't have much more room to micro and kite back anymore. And that's where you get your big damage done. That's where you can actually end games. And so for Zoun, I don't mind it too much. It probably could have been a little bit cleaner in terms of the control, but it's just kind of the way that this style plays out in PBT, because unless you want to take those additional gas geysers and play a more creator-esque style where you are truly unlocking everything in the tech tree, you need to trade with a Terran. It's kind of like, going back to you said that Maru style where he would be very campy in ZVT, we would think about players like Serral, try to break him down, or Raynor, and they would go up to 90, 100 drones, and they would max, and it would just be wave after wave after wave of army, just kind of throwing them at a wall of Terran, and you're taking constant efficient trades, but you're hoping to eventually wear them down. Protoss in the current meta, especially in Korea with this style of 3 or 4 gases, it's very similar. There are a lot of parallels to that old ZVT style, and I've always been of the opinion that timing attacks, even though they do have their position in this matchup, you really want to play more of a starport focus, kind of growing death ball of bio, which we kind of saw Clem do there, but he did get kneecapped by losing those 20 SCVs early, right? So he was not really able to fully unlock the potential of that. But there were countless engagements where he had these fantastic trades at the center. And I think if he can kind of tighten up the defense, and we don't have a Zealot Warpin like that one get so much damage done, I'm really liking his approach against what Zoun is doing.
Yeah, no, I think it's extremely strong. We've got the hallucinated Phoenix coming through here to see. Everything looking pretty standard right now. It is taken out by the Widow Mine. It's kind of tucked in between the barracks and the factory. And he's going to go for a Widow Mine drop, which is, you know, among the most common things you can do in the matchup. The Robo is about to finish here. And Protoss is probably just going to be playing defense, just the way this has gone. I just try to take a third base here. Well, hold on a second, actually. He's going to get a War Prism. So I said he's probably going to play defensive. Whenever you see a War Prism made at this phase of the game, they have to at least be doing harass or at most pushing.
Yeah, I think this is 4-gate Blink, actually,
yeah.
looking at the production tab.
So 4-gate Blink it's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you can get in there, especially before they get the 3 siege tanks out, especially before they get a bunker in the main. Bunker in the main kind of ends it. But this is not as common as it was like 3 or 4 years ago. There was a period where this was like all the rage. Now, he's going to be moving out. At the same time, there's a medevac that's just now going into the main. So I don't know what he's got to defend. He does clearly see it. Oh, my God. Perfect deflection. Just enough, because on this map, there's not a lot of room. Like, the Stalkers can just gun down the medevac. There's not a big, you know, open area that you can hide in like he is over there right now. But, yeah, anyways, let's see what the Stalkers can do. You can also try to go in the front. This is like kind of a counterintuitive idea. And that's exactly what he's going to do, because a lot of times you think the main is more vulnerable, but Terran will kind of stay defense heavy in the main and try to hold that. And, yeah, I mean, he got in there. He got the kill on the tank. If you can kill the tank and then maybe go back into the main and hit the next tank, you can keep this harass going.
Yeah, it's really about just keeping the tank count under control as the Stalker Ball grows. And that was a beautiful initial engagement there from Zoun. He blinked forward, and he was also able to pick up those injured Stalkers in the front line. I don't think he lost a single unit. So much damage was done at basically no cost there for Zoun, just some hull damage. But actually, we do have Clem now coming with the Cloak Banshee. There's only one observer. It's right here. It's going to get recalled into the natural expansion as those Stalkers that... It's funny, especially recalling a stationary observer, because it gets back to the natural expansion, and it's like, okay, we now have to like unsiege the observer, and that's going to open up a window for these Widow Mines to come here into the main base. Probes are going to run away. 2 of them will go down, as the medevac, I think, also did fall there at the top of the screen. But Clem buying a little bit of time right now. That was a lot of attention that Zoun had to spend back at home.
That was fun. You know, every once in a while you have like a funny interaction, and I always think, like, have I actually seen this yet? Like, I know there's so many things that are possible in the game, but yeah, seeing that little one observer get recalled back there was something else. So, you know, in this game, right now, Clem is feeling a little bit of the pressure. Zoun doesn't have to do anything. This is a little bit reminiscent, actually, of Game 1. Although I think, the makeup of what Terran has here is a little bit different because, we've got the Banshees at play, although they haven't really done that much. So over here, we're going to see, more turtling here from Zoun, more tacking up.
Yeah, he did take that 4th Vespene Geyser, so he's going to be going up with Charge, +1 ground weapons, Colossus and Thermal Lance all coming in right now. But economically, he's not really in the best position. When you go 4-gate blink like this one, you're kind of expecting to get more damage done than just sniping one Siege Tank, even though that was a great move there from Zoun. You're hoping that it can be a momentum-building play that has potentially a killing move capacity.
Right.
Right? Like, you want to shave down all of the key units of the Terran player, but Zoun didn't quite get that done, and so he's invested a lot of resources in these Stalkers on the front line. He's delayed his economic growth because he went for that 4-gate blink, and also he had to warp in additional Stalkers in the main base back at home. And so that kind of is going to slow down the entire tech development here for Protoss, and these aren't units that are going to be especially useful when the actual fight commences. They're very good at microing cross-map, as Zoun would love to do right now in terms of just deflecting this. And by the way, is this the one? We have an Artosis pylon right here powering all these gateways? Indeed we do. It's coming in at kind of a critical interval. Normally this wouldn't be a big deal, but Clem is pushing across the map right now, and Zoun, you could already see the minerals and the gas, they're starting to bank. He wants to use those gateways.
Yeah, I mean, well, hold on a second. The Banshees are going to come in here. They're going to do a decent amount of damage. I don't see any Stalkers over here to help out. When you got 2 Banshees like this, the battery is hopeless at trying to heal it in time. I feel like this is a great moment for Clem to push, but I see him moving back with his army.
I honestly don't think he needs to. He's seeing every single mineral line. Zoun right now is sub 50 probes. He's only on 3 bases. This is not like game number 1 where Zoun is going to be double expanding. He's going to be instantly saturating. He's going to max in the next couple of minutes. Finally, the Banshees do get cleaned up, but so many probes going down. And Clem is in a just commanding economic position. 19 probes in total have died over the course of this game.
It is insane to see Banshees get kills this late in the game like that. It always feels like the Banshees have a time and a place, but later on, they kind of lose their strength, and they're not great at fighting with the main army. Zoun has decided to just try to move across the map, and I don't know if this is being prompted by the fact that he lost so many workers that he would prefer to just try to end the game here. But let's see if he's got enough. He blinks in. He takes out both the tanks in the front, but there's 2 more in the back, and frankly, just so much more infantry here that there's no way this was ever going to work.
Yeah, Zoun just with so much resources invested in the Stalkers, in the Zealots, with the delayed tech. The 3rd class is only just now joining the fray here. The Forge upgrade's also delayed, +1 ground weapons versus the 1-1 here of Clem. His army does not have the firepower that it once did. And you could see, while he is levying this pressure, oh man, I thought he was going to be going into Storm as kind of a fallback, like maybe I can try and stabilize if I get some big storms off defensively. No, he is committing. He's taking a 4th base, but I feel like that's just to resaturate as the natural starts to mine out, because he's only at 53 workers, and he's morphing in Archons. We do not have Storm coming in. The income advantage, monumental right now for Clem, is Zoun is going to try and end the game, but this is a mostly gateway army. Yes, we do have those 3 Colossi, but a mostly gateway army against a basically maxed Terran.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know that he's going to be able to get in there. The truth is, if Zoun keeps expanding and growing, I guess the game can go on, because this does appear to be a matchup where Terran needs to, like, end the Protoss, so to speak. But right now, I feel like Zoun is like, I think he's going a little bit too close to the edge here. He might not have a sense of where Clem is. Clem's literally maxed out. He can't make any more units. But at the same time, it's Zoun with a smaller army kind of orbiting around the edges of the map. I think he's going to try to attack in here at 6.
Yeah, he wants to get some damage. Usually when you morph Archons like this, you're kind of hoping to get some damage done, because otherwise just having Templar building up Storm energy would be so much more advantageous. And Zoun, even though he is behind 30 supply right now against his opponent, the standing army is quite powerful, but now that Ghosts are getting added into the mix here, Tasteless, a lot of the HP of this Protoss army is going to be up in the air. If there's clutch EMPs hitting the sentries to disable Guardian Shield before it gets activated, if the clutch EMPs also hit these Archons, then suddenly this army that Zoun has assembled and invested so many resources in, I feel like it might just get vaporized by a very advantageous Terran force. By the way, that split was so late from Clem. I was not expecting him to dodge that shot, but he dodged it perfectly. Now stimming in, one more shot, kind of just zoning away the Terran army, and Clem's like, you know what? I see what you got. I see that the second disruptor shot going in. I'm just going to pivot all the way here to the 12 o'clock. I'm going to try and take down this expansion.
Okay, he's going to try to move in here up at 12 o'clock. You can see Zoun's going to have a decent spread. Now he can kind of use the Nexus to block some of that attack. Now he's going to spill down here into the bottom. This is where Clem has a lot of defensive lines, the siege tank, everything else. It seems like everything is thinning out right now for Zoun. And if Zoun can't hold this, he's just going to lose this game.
Man, there weren't even EMPs on these Archons at the back. Josh did a really good job of kind of keeping them as a second wave unit to avoid that damage, but it just doesn't matter. Clem, he is so strong right now. His economy was uninterrupted. He got so much damage done early, and we're going to go to a game number 3. That is the Clem I was hoping to see in game number 1, just getting relentless harassment done, macroing up beautifully back at home, and clearly not afraid of going into a mid-game or a late game where both players are maxing.
It just felt like Zoun had this really weird moment where he attacked in, and I guess that might have been just from the Banshees killing so many workers.
Yeah.
Like, he was just so behind. I mean, I can't really blame him, but it's kind of like a lose more move. You know, like, so much of this is just, I think, stay back, defend, but I think we've all been in these games where, like, your build order gets messed up, or like you lose way more than you should to a harass, and you're like, all right, let's just try to take a fight. But I feel like that kind of sealed the deal. I think Clem was growing pretty slowly. And yeah, not just that fight. There was a second fight that came in there where I just thought, man, this doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like, when Terran's maxed out, the last thing you want to be doing is attacking into their fortified positions. But that's what we had.
I think you summarized that quite perfectly, but from Zoun's perspective, when you open a 4-gate blink like that, you have a probe cut, you have a delayed third base, you invest extra resources into the Stalkers, so your Colossus and your Forge are coming in later as well. You kind of do feel this pressure to get more damage done, and I really think that Zoun did have the capacity, the potential to get more damage inflicted on his opponent early, but he kind of got sidetracked by Clem going for those harassment plays, because I think back to the blink into the natural expansion, he sniped the siege tank. I don't think he lost a single Stalker. He got some SCVs, I believe. He definitely got some Marines. It was a lot of damage inflicted, and when you play 4-gate blink, you're hoping to go for that play and then build off of it into something more. But then Clem was just cross-map, you know, throwing in these little kind of annoying counterattacks that have the potential to get some damage done, like the Widowmine drops. But really what they're doing is they're buying time, you know? Yes, they're killing 1 or 2 probes. They're delaying mining time in the main base for just a little bit. But what they're really doing is they are taxing the attention of the Protoss player. And then suddenly that window where the 4-gate blink has the capacity to get the damage done, it is closed. And it is Clem who is holding all the cards. Now we're going into a game number 3. That was a very convincing win for Clem in game number 2. And I got to say, Tasteless, this series, it is shaping up to be a really fun one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see that Clem was able to fight back. I put some of the weight on Zoun there. I mean, obviously the Banshee harass was great, and I think sometimes, you know, you send Banshees in a little bit later. They can even do more damage because you think you're kind of past that point in time in the game, right? It's like you'll know exactly when the first Banshee can come out and do damage, but if you delay it, they sort of give up on defending the main and the natural and the third base, which is what happened back there, basically thinking they're fighting a different kind of tech. So yeah, Clem takes that one. I think a much more solid game. I'm interested in the fact that Clem in both games is basically just kind of rolling with the punches, focusing on development, not in a hurry to end the game, and is instead going to try to go toe-to-toe with the Protoss.
Yeah, it's a little bit off meta right now, but I genuinely do believe this is the better way to play TVP, just because so many Protoss players in the current meta, Zoun included, are, I don't want to say cutting corners. I mean, they're kind of doing the opposite of cutting corners. They're not being greedy. They're bracing for these big pushes. You know, they take the third base, they saturate the minerals, but they're not taking up very much. And they kind of want you to attack into them, because when you play these very unrefined styles of PvT where you don't have a lot of splash damage, where you're not filling out your tech tree, where you don't have a lot of forge upgrades coming in, you kind of want to fight the bio before it just reaches this deadly mass like we saw Clem have in that late game right there, with maxed out with Ghosts, with Siege Tanks, with Widowmines to deal with the Zealots, with just enough Vikings to focus down the Colossi. That's one brave SCV going back to building this command center. Oh my goodness. I feel like basically any other Terran player would try to evacuate that thing, but Clem is just...
Yeah, that was confidence. Oh my God.
Wow. 2 survivors right here. This probe, that SCV.
Every probe life matters here. He's going to get that. into the assimilator there.
But yeah, just to quickly wrap up my point, I do like that style that Clem is showcasing a little bit more. But I also have the wherewithal to recognize that this is really hard to do. Is Terran. Like, you see Clem micro this, and there's so many separate control groups. You know, he's manually pulling away the medevacs and boosting when he's on the retreat so they don't get sniped by stalkers, because that's kind of... The medevac's dying, you're suddenly losing the game, even if the trade isn't that bad, because you can't have healing and Vikings at the same time. And then you get these engagements where you have to siege the tanks, you have to siege the Widow Mines, you have to hit the EMP, and then you need to stutter step the army. It is very difficult to do. I think that's also one of the reasons why a lot of Terran players are leaning heavily into this more aggressive style, because frankly it is easier to execute.
Sure. No, I mean, the truth is not all strategies are evenly are even in the challenge that they have to present. Some styles of play are just harder to do than others, right? So in this game, we've got the starport about to finish up. Clem's just trying to get value with the Reaper and kind of get any information you can get, even if you see, you know, an extra sentry or, you know, anything that can give you a hint of what kind of game you're going to be in. You'll go for it. We've got Blink coming down here, and this is basically, you know, the standard way of playing. I'm sorry, how many gates is this total? Is it 3 or is it 4?
I thought it was 3, but with the additional gateway coming in, this might be 4.
Yeah, I think that's actually
again?
4. It looks like there might be 1 at the entrance, and I think I see 3 on the main of the mini-map.
Yeah,
if
we'll
I can dare sound that cool as a caster, I'm like, well, the mini-map looks like there's exactly this number of buildings here.
Man, I can't even count command centers on the minimap sometimes. If you can start counting gateways, I will be so impressed, Tasteless.
Well, if he's going to do this, now it can't be 4 because he gets that third Nexus here. So this is just defensive play here from the Stalkers. This was before Robotech or anything like that. Protoss is probably most vulnerable when it's just this kind of play. You can see the Robo starting now. You're spread out pretty thin. I guess the peak of the vulnerability basically is when the third Nexus finishes, because then the probes have to go over there, and then you just have more you know, weak little workers that you got to defend. And actually, what is... Oh, he thinks, due to the time in the game, because it's about 4 minutes, 30 seconds, that he can intercept the medevac that's up there. But Clem's doing something that's kind of genius and counterintuitive, as he goes right into the entrance.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. He's going to pick that up.
Oh, no! All right, 5 probes going down. That's more than we typically see in modern StarCraft 2. And, man, the medevac and one of these Widow Mines is going to survive as well. Yeah, what happened there? Zoun, with the Hallucinated Phoenix, he actually saw the medevac for a moment and then lost track of it. And he was anticipating that the medevac was just going to take a slightly less direct route into the main. And Clem kind of called that bluff, and he just completely pivoted and just sent that straight into the natural expansion from an angle that Jean was not expecting. Yeah, very cool move there by Clem. That was some crafty movement.
Yeah, that was beautifully done. It's always an ill biter when you see all the probes turn and try to do a citizen's arrest on the Widow Mine there, but that's pretty crazy. Not the end of the world, but I mean, definitely a good start here from Clem. The medevac's kind of stuck down there now, surrounded by that, the Stalkers that are over there. And I'm sorry, did he chuck an auto turret in there, or did he just like fly in and fly back out? That looked very odd.
There was a shield battery, I think, so he just...
Oh, I see. Okay,
went
so
back
he didn't
home.
bother, you know. I'm like, just a scouting Raven over here. So Terran is going to get that late third and basically go for Stim. And, you know, we're going to see a later third base. Similar to games 1 and 2 with Zoun, he parks a couple Stalkers outside the entrance. You can kill, like, you know, anything that's scouting. Confirmed that there's no third base yet. And Clem is not going to be expanding just yet.
Ooh.
Oh, man. Is he going to catch this? That's so good by him.
Yeah, Clem is also really fast, though, in terms of the reaction. He knows that this is kind of the biggest threat is losing 1 or 2 medevacs, because every full medevac, more or less, is going to be 10 supply. You do not want to drop 10 or 20 army supply this early in the game. Sometimes... I remember in days of Wings of Liberty or Heart of the Swarm, there were some Terran players who were just so keen on dropping. Some auto turrets now come in. With enough energy for 2 of them, they can focus fire and take down probes despite having a shield battery. So getting, what, 4, 5? That's some pretty good damage done for just 1 Raven. Yeah, Clem is just, I'm so impressed with the movement, especially being able to pull those medevacs back so quickly, and now he's posturing over here. Going to be moving out side of this natural expansion. Stimpack is done, so he's able to quickly usher away these 4 Stalkers, and Zoun, he is setting up for a 4 base. This is very reminiscent of game number 1, going into delayed Colossus, delayed Thermal Lance, but only 3 gas, so a lot of gateway units on the ground. But I feel like Clem has been able to get so much more damage done, both with the auto turrets in the main base, but also with the Widowmine drop in the natural expansion. And so momentum really in his advantage. We have a lot of Widowmines this time, Tasteless. These Widowmines are deadly against the heavy Zealot style of Zoun. The Widowmine connection's absolutely huge. Actually, that force field working in the advantage of Clem right there. 3 of the Widowmines even surviving. One of them actually shielded by the force field from those
perfectly
Zealots.
covered there.
Yeah, it's a Terran force field, and Clem behind all of it was able to cancel the 4th base too.
That was beautifully done. And Clem basically got a deny on that base. He's going to back up. And at this point in time, you know, he's in a position where he probably just has to kind of look for the next 4th base that's going to start and then try to hit that again. And just keep the Terran oppressed. I'm sorry, keep the Protoss oppressed. A couple of Zealots are going to come out here. Now, these were probably supposed to be sent out to hide somewhere to counterattack, so this is actually a bigger deal than you might think. I mean, Zealots a lot of times are the, you get used to seeing them get killed off all the time in PvT, right? But this means that there's no counterplay here for Zoun. And Clem, excuse me, with about 160 supply is going to move in. Oh, remember you? Remember this guy? He's back.
Yeah, and it's at such a critical moment, too. Clem is just going to skirt his way on right past those force fields. Thermal Lance not done just yet, so the first Colossus is going to go down. So Exposer on the front line, and Clem, he has got a little bit too much, Tasteless. Zoun in a full retreat back to the natural expansion, and I feel like Clem might just be able to barrel his way on into that winner's match. Two-face hero, GG is called, and that is the Clem that we all showed up to see. It's one of the reasons why I was so giddy to get started with this group today, Tasteless, because Zoun, he is no slouch. This is the best that we have seen Zoun in years, possibly ever, I must say. You know, he is reaching like a Super Saiyan form right now, and for Clem to win those last 2 games so decisively, I'm excited, man. Clem versus Hero is going to be so much fun.
He looks really strong, and it's kind of going against my whole thesis of, like, I think Terran have to try to, like, go in with some kind of a kill move, get, like, the Achilles heel of the Protoss, like, stop them before they get too big. No, he's just kind of going toe-to-toe, playing a careful game, having good engages. And then what I like the most is that when he, like, wins a big fight, he doesn't just keep going. This is, like, a problem a lot of people have in StarCraft, even at the highest level, where, like, they win with a push, and then you could just, like, go back. You can just, like, pack your bags and go back home and get further ahead. You don't have to close it out. We'll see people that'll keep pushing, and they'll feed in, and eventually it falls apart, and then the comeback happens. Guys, we're going to go to a short break. When we come back, our next best of 3 here in the RSL. We'll see you soon.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the RSL. We are continuing on here with Group B, getting ready to go into the winners match between Hero and Clem. And I am joined not by Tasteless, but by Gemini here. How you doing, Gemini?
I'm doing great. I kicked that guy out of here. We don't need the boomers on cast anymore. I am here to take over. So yeah, first time on the RSL cast. It's going to be super fun. Very excited. The studio is awesome. I love this setup we've got. And yeah, it's going to be super sick.
Yeah, super sick. The game's been great as well. Of course, here at the RSL, it's a lot of people on the team, so we're going to have the capabilities of being able to rotate people out, mix things up like this. I think it's really exciting. And you were actually able to catch the first couple series, too. Hero and Clem looking really good right now. Very convincing wins for both those guys in their opening series. Who are you thinking has the advantage here?
I mean, I generally would favor Clem overall just because he's just like absolutely insane recently. Hero obviously is one of the best Protosses that we have, and I mean, if he didn't just kind of lose in GSL, I would still call him the best, but that's a bit unfortunate. But you know, we'll just kind of ignore that for now. But yeah, no, Hero is definitely one of the best we have. But so if anything, this should definitely be probably the closest match, or just the most high level match that we have today, I would say. So I picked the best one to come on the deck for. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's a good time to hop in. Our games will be ready in just a minute, but yeah, I'm especially excited about this match because the form that Hero has been in recently, of course, winning another GSL this year, had a very good run in GSL Season 2 just a couple of weeks ago. It took some really dirty shenanigans from Rogue to actually knock him out of that.
It's true. He did get kind of owned right there with those kind of disgusting strategies.
Yeah, he really did. But I must say, he has been looking so good, and Protoss across the board has been looking a lot better that I've been kind of musing, thinking about what kind of matchups we're going to have at EWC. And I feel like there is a real chance, again, here in 2025, that we're going to have a Protoss World Champion. And Hero versus Clem, these are two of the guys that, like, I look at this, Hero, Clem, Cyril, my top three going at EWC. Raynor, of course, also honorable mention. Kier, always good. Maru, always good. But they're the three players in the hot streak right now. And so to get a showcase of these two guys right here in the RSL, our game is loading up. I could not be more excited to get into this series as we have spawning in the top right, the blue Protoss player, Hero, and the bottom left, the red Terran Clem.
Nice. Yeah, I'm very excited. Hero's been kind of bringing out some kind of interesting stuff lately as well. I mean, last season we kind of saw it with that very interesting charge first build that he was doing like almost all the time against these fast tank pushes and other kind of weird techie plays that Terrans have been going for lately. So I even just kind of implemented that in my own play, just kind of out of nowhere, just kind of free-formed it one time, and it just completely owned. And I was like, oh, nice. Well, this is something I've never even thought was possible. And Hero's the guy that's kind of bringing these kind of new strategies to light.
Yeah, he really has been on the cutting edge of Protoss for a very long time here in Korea. And one of the exciting things about watching that GSL Finals a couple of weeks ago versus Cure is that we kind of had to watch Hero in real time try to come up with different solutions and workshop them versus the relentless all-ins that Kier was bringing to the table. And so seeing him try a couple different variants on, going Blink first and just a ton of Chrono Boost so we get charged really quickly, or just pumping out charge as fast as possible has been very exciting, because even in some of these macro games where it seems like Terran is potentially angling to go into some kind of siege tank push, we will still have Hero opt for the charge. And if there is no siege tank push to really absorb with that fast charge research coming in, he's not afraid to warp in 4, 5, maybe 6 Zealots and actually hit a little bit of a timing attack of his own. And it's kind of hard to say from my perspective whether that is just something that is inherently good or if it's good because it's been so off meta.
Right. Yeah,
but it is catching a lot of these Terran players off guard. So I think it's going to be a very fun, very interesting clash of styles here between Hero and Clem.
Yeah, it is just kind of interesting, too, because it's like it also gives you still map vision, which is something that you normally wouldn't think you would have with a charge opener, because it feels like you have to be really committal with it. But it's like the charge lots are fast. Like, you can just kind of
Yeah.
run around with them. You can spread them out, like, almost like Zerglings, where you just are spotting for medevacs or whatever. So it's kind of an interesting thing, and it's a unique way to play it. So I just am very interested to see if Hero's going to try to bring something like that out, if he's going to maybe go for some early Sentry stuff, because that's obviously super good now with the overall recharge ability. And he's going at Zealot second, which is not at all what I was expecting.
Yeah, I actually didn't catch the early game build
he
order, but
canceled.
Hero seemed very low on gas relatively. And now he's actually adding in the Stargate. So Zealot gets canceled here. He's going to queue up another Stalker.
That's actually cute. He's faking
Oh,
it.
yeah.
He was assuming that the Reaper would come in to scout to see that there's a second gateway unit being made, and then knowing that the tech might be a little bit later, but then he cancels it, gets the Stargate slightly faster than he would normally, and also going for a Stalker first is not something you normally would do with a fast Stargate like this anyways. So a lot of little tiny mind games coming in here from Hero to try and get some sort of edge. We'll see if this ends up kind of working for him, because, I mean, Clem is generally someone that we know that can kind of figure these things out, and just, even if there are a little bit of tricks, he can just kind of swap them away without them really doing too much. So we'll see if this early Widow Mine stuff is going to be defended or not from Hero, because he is going Phoenix, which is definitely what you want when you're going against a Widow Mine drop.
Yeah, this is actually so interesting because Hero, going back to last year and earlier on in this year, is one of these players that more than other Protoss players in Korea has been mixing in Phoenix play, but I think in GSL Season 1 and in GSL Season 2, unless I'm mistaken, I don't believe he actually opted for it even once. And so this is kind of a throwback build from Hero. Clem coming in with his Reaper, of course, getting a bit body blocked by not only the probes, but also the Stalker there. Nice takedown, keeping the element of surprise here with the Phoenix. I wonder how much of this is something that Hero has prepared for this series, and how much of this is based on what he saw Clem do versus Zoun in that last series. Because Clem, he was relying very heavily on Widow Mine drops in the early game. I think he went for it potentially even every single game in that series. And just as you said, Phoenix, they are so good at shutting that down. And they also pair really well with the Colossus style, but this isn't going to be the rapid rate of expansion, gateway explosion, mass charge lot style, at least not here in the very beginning. It's a very fast 4 gas, and now Clem coming in with a Widow Mine drop. We do have those Phoenix. How's this going to go?
Yeah, he's also very well positioned with the Stalkers and the Zealots, and he's even going to start chasing down immediately because Clem has no idea this is even here. This is the first reveal of it. We'll be able to target down that medevac, just barely pulls away at the last second as well. Excellent micro from Hero. Forces those Widow Mines to drop, but getting the medevac completely shuts this down, and that's exactly what Hero wanted from this opener. And now Clem has to kind of rethink exactly his approach to this, because he really did not expect this Phoenix opener whatsoever from what he saw, and now we can even get extra damage onto the SCVs, which is excellent from Hero. As long as he, of course, doesn't lose any of these Phoenix, he'll be sitting very pretty, and he even will get this scout on the cloak research there. Unfortunately, losing one Phoenix is maybe a little bit too much, and the second is actually not good either. So a nice start. I mean, 8 SCVs honestly cannot really complain too much, and getting the scout on the cloak is pretty big. So I don't know. Oh, he actually canceled it. That's kind of cute. I like that from Clem, realizing it's scouted. But anyways, yeah, a bit of an overextension. Losing 2 Phoenix doesn't feel great, but the amount of damage he did is, I gave it a pass, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Even though he sacrificed the Phoenixes, it was clearly a decision the Hero made. He's like, you know what, I'm actually just going to go deeper. I'm probably going to lose a couple of these. I've already scouted the Cyclones that my opponent has on the map, but let's just get as much economic damage done as possible. And with that move, he kind of recreated the worker differential that you're expecting to have as an advantage as Protoss if you take a very fast third base. But he's doing it without needing to take that very quick third base. He's doing it just by using the Phoenix, and that Cyclone going to get a little bit more damage done. I did actually... this is the first time I'm seeing Phoenix, I think, in PvT at this level on this patch, and I'm digging into the energy recharge ability. Actually, it has a lot of potential to get more damage done, more SCV damage done with these Phoenix openings, because obviously the limiter there, it's the energy. It's very similar to the Oracle with the Pulsar Beam. How many SCVs can you actually lift with the Phoenix? Oftentimes, it's not the Phoenix getting shooed away by the bio, by the Cyclones, or denied by missile turrets. It's just they run out of energy. There's no more SCVs to kill. And those are some really high-energy Phoenix coming in by Hero. So I'm wondering if he actually spent 1 or 2 energy recharges really early on to make that damage happen.
Roddy would agree with everything you're saying. He thinks you're extremely smart and thinks that you deserve everything you get right now. Yes, of course. The Phoenix is, yeah, definitely something that would be benefited, of course, from that energy overcharge or recharge ability now. So it's a bit you can't really get too much with it, but that little bit extra is obviously something. And this observer placement, perfect from Hero. Even sees the couple SCVs getting pulled as well, so knows just how committed. Oh, even sees the extra train as well on the right. They were get split up a little bit, trying to hide those. But that is a perfect scout from Hero. Will he have the necessary defenses back at home to be able to defend this is the question. Nice pick off from the Cyclone, but no, that is not what you want as Hero. He's focusing on the front, unfortunately, and now that's a big part of his army that is now going to be completely destroyed.
Infantry weapons just about to finish up. Charge is finishing as well, but right now my eyes are on Thermal Lance. It's going to be so tough for Hero to engage into this one. Guardian Shield pops. That shield battery actually providing a lot of value. Colossi, they are melting these SCVs, melting the Marines on the front line, but there is just so much bio left, Gemini. Clem is stimming for the last Colossus, barely able to survive. GG is called. Hero somehow able to hold on despite losing those Phoenix in the center of the map, and I must say, that mix-up going for the Phoenix play in game number 1 here against Clem, not only did it stop the Widowmine drop, it got so much SCV damage in, and it kind of forced Clem into a position that I wasn't necessarily expecting to see from him today, the SCV pulls. A lot of Clem, his TVP that I think about, is what we saw him showcase against Zoun, where he's not afraid of going into the mid game or going into the late game, adding in additional command centers, playing into a max supply army. He kind of had a feel for pulling the trigger, though, in that position, just because there was so much eco damage done.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, too, because the Phoenixes, what I noticed, especially in that last fight, is how few medevacs there were. Because you're going for that type of attack, the early medevac getting picked off from the Phoenix is actually super important. And the fact that he was going for Cloak Banshees initially as well also cuts into the medevac production you have later on. And that ended up not really even doing anything because the Cloak had to get canceled. The Banshee was kind of just sitting in the corner for so long. So towards the end of that, when he's trying to deep dive those Colossi, every single stim and every single swipe from those Colossus ends up being totally permanent because he had like, what, 1 medevac to actually heal everything. So yeah, it seemed like it was actually a little bit doomed to from the start for Clem. And it's all down to those tiny little minute changes that Hero did in the early game to really sell what he was going for and hide the early Phoenix.
Yeah, a lot of the PvT games that we see at this level, it feels like this is one of the matchups that isn't typically dictated too much by the way the early game goes. Like, I think about TVZ or PVZ as one of these matchups where if you're able to get the ball rolling very early on, it is a snowbally beast. You know, like you see a Protoss player versus a Zerg player. With the Oracles, they get more than 3 drones. They're really happy. The Zerg is really sad. Usually that kind of balloons into some big advantage.
They start crying in front of their computers. Like, they can't possibly get more than 3. No.
But for TVP, it feels like in a couple of these games that Clem has played against Zoun and then also Hero versus Clem, the early games are kind of deciding the way that the mid game is going to go in a more impactful way than one might expect. So let's see if that's going to be the same story here in game number 2. Of course, this is the winner's match here in the round of 16 Group B. So if Hero wins this best of 3, one more map, he is going to be advancing to that playoff bracket. Clem, if he loses, he will fall into that final match.
Yeah, so we all want to see Hero and Clem both qualify into those playoffs, but sadly only right now one can get there. But that's why we have groups, so we'll get one of them hopefully also there later. But if they get upset, that's also actually pretty sick. You know, getting Zoun, getting SOS further would be extremely cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Honestly, I wouldn't be upset if anybody advanced from this group. You know, I mean, just every single player has such a unique story to tell. Clem, I think, in my opinion, by far the best Terran player in the world right now. Partly because Mario is just so injured. You know, it seems that he's not quite himself. I'm not sure exactly how he is managing his time in terms of practicing. I know he's skipping some tournaments. He's not traveling as much to tournaments as he normally would. As he's probably trying to keep as best care of his shoulders, of his wrists as possible before AWC. But Clem and Hero, both these guys are just complete beasts when it comes to grinding practice games. They will play in basically every single online cup. They are laddering all of the time. They are workhorses in StarCraft 2.
I feel like I even saw Hero playing in like one of the Cranky Ducklings kind of like open cups like the first time, and he just obviously dumpstered it. And it's like, usually players that are, it's like Eba or, I don't know, like Gerald or some of, Gerald's obviously great too, but like slightly lesser, lower level pros, I would say. And then Hero just shows, they were like in a Discord chat being like, I can't believe Hero's like signing up for this. Like, what? Come on, like, can we not get some free, like, $20 or something? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it is funny. But for a lot of these pro players too, occasionally you'll have a pro player who will want to just completely focus their energies on preparing for the big prize purse, EWC, trying to save all of their builds, all of their strategies specifically for that tournament. And then you get guys like Clem and Hero who just do not want to shy away from any games. They thrive, they improve as players by grinding, by competing, and you see them basically in everything. Clem's another one of those guys who you'll see play in these little tiny cups for, tens of dollars, dozens of dollars.
I could buy my lunch with this money.
But I really respect it. It's just they want to compete.
Yeah.
Any opportunity they have to compete, they're going to take it. And it's paid off so big for both of them, too. Hero, in my opinion, even though Classic just won the last GSL, Hero is who I have my eyes on as the Protoss player to follow heading into the World Championship. And Clem is the Terran to follow. And it is just such a treat to have them battling here in the RSL so early on.
For sure. In this game as well, it seemed like Clem opened for a 2-gas opener, and I was kind of paying attention to see what Hero's reaction to this would be, because that obviously means that you can get much faster tech out as the Terran player, and it's leaving a lot of room as the Protoss to kind of have to guess what exactly is going to be coming your way, because the options just start to unfold really quickly. And it seemed like Hero has actually gone, I think this is his 4th Stalker out of his gateway, I think it is, unless I'm mistaken. It's either 3 or 4, which is pretty abnormal, to be honest with you. It's kind of weird to get so many Stalkers so early, especially against an early teching play like this. So I'm kind of just looking at this, wondering exactly where he's going with it. And it seems like he just wants to get as many Stalkers as humanly possible. I'm not to be like, crazy or anything, but I feel like seeing 4 Stalkers out of a gateway is like, that's like the first time I've ever seen this, unless I've completely missed something. But yeah, I don't know. I find their reaction to be interesting, and it really allows you to just get on the map super fast with so much pressure, and it allows you to one-shot Marines, which is the big thing. Losing one of them to the Cyclone is a big mistake, though.
Wow.
Oh, what the heck are these things doing here? No, Hero. Oh, that's so unlucky.
He is going to come in on the flank side, but Clem just a little bit too quick, able to pull that Cyclone away. Of course, Blink's still about 20 seconds away from completion. As Hero, although he did have the numbers in terms of Stalkers, meeting the Terran in the middle of the map like this has not gone his way. This 1 HP Cyclone has gotten so much damage done, and now Clem is firmly entrenching himself in this position. Blink, it is finished. I think we're probably going to have a Blink 4, along with a Pro Pull right on the Siege Tank. He has just enough to 2-shot at Cyclone, of course, on 1 HP. Going to get dispatched very quickly there. A good trade here for Hero. I think he was hoping to get something like this earlier on with the initial swell of Stalkers, but just a little bit disjointed. But I feel like having an engagement like that one, you don't feel quite as painful from that initial engagement where the Cyclone got so much damage done.
Yeah, that was still great for Hero, though. Just completely dislodging that first push. I thought he was actually going to be in much more trouble than he was. Even sending one Stalker to the right to soak the tank shots. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out, but nice try on the attempt. And now the Immortal joining the fray as well. I don't know how much... Well, he actually does have a Prism halfway through, so I guess he could just kind of try to push this. The Banshee coming in is going to come at the best time for Clem, though. This is really going to distract Hero. The Blink forward again into the Siege Tank as he really tries to deny this retreat from Clem is excellent, meaning that this is now a broken door. There's no tanks on the field. It's all in this Banshee now to distract Hero at the front. And without a Prism, he needs to be a little bit careful, but there's like no units defensively for Clem right now.
Oh, that Stalker, it's jittering out a little bit there in the main base. That Banshee getting some good damage done, but Hero, he has his eyes set on trying to get a big blow done to Clem's economy here on the front line. But this Banshee, even Cloak finishing. Actually didn't catch that there on the production tab. The Observer finally able to catch it. I was really liking Hero's position, but that one Banshee, not only did it get the scouting information, the confirmation that the third base here for Hero is delayed, and so this is a lot of investment into gateway units, into getting damage done, but taking down 8 probes basically equalizes the damage. And yes, Hero, he was able to pick off a lot of the key units there for Clem, but things have equalized in kind of a funny way here.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Banshee was exactly what he needed. He's even got 2 more. Wait, did he lose? Did he lose the first one? Actually,
I have
I'm not
no
sure.
idea. I
feel like
assumed
must have.
did.
But
I guess it must have
2
been 3
more is kind of
Banshees.
wild. So that's definitely going to be unexpected from Hero's side. This little drop with the 4 Stalkers is excellent from Hero as well to try and equalize that damage that he took from the Banshees. Obviously, he did some pretty good damage with the frontal push as well, but I think he was expecting a game-ending damage with that. And getting Stim is also extremely critical if he focuses it, and he will. What?
Oh, he's going to try and get it. He's going to drop again. One more shot.
Oh, my God.
And Stim gets denied. Now, this isn't quite the game ender that it could be because Stim was only maybe 25% completed as you're now blinking to the main base, is able to thwart these Banshees. Ooh, is that now a safe space? I thought for sure it would be.
Nice.
The Stalker's just barely out of range for a moment, though. The Banshee was taking a couple more shots than I expected, but you know, that Blink Stalker drop into the main base, normally it can't get that much damage done if it comes this late. But because Hero has been able to shave off so many siege tanks, it meant that Clem, he was basically in a defensive posture at the natural expansion, not in the main base. And so Hero being able to delay Stim, get a couple of SCV kills, get a couple of Marine kills. And I feel like he's going to be really happy with his position now, basically powering up. Charge is done, the Icum advantage swinging back into Hero's favor. And he's going to be bracing for impact. Clem, he's been able to somehow muster up 4 more siege tanks. That factory has been working overtime, man. It's almost like Clem is chrono boost. As this is going to be a very heavy-hitting push. I'm expecting an SCV pull with this one. I'm kind of surprised that we haven't seen... Okay, now we have the SCVs coming on in the middle of the map. I don't know if Hero can stop this because there isn't that much splash damage, but with a couple rounds of warp-ins, maybe he can find the angle. I think this has the potential to be very close, though, Gemini.
I love this reposition from the Stalkers to be able to get the tanks on the back end as well while going for the Prism drop on the left. The snipe was there, almost trying to get it. Getting the attacks onto the tanks as well is super huge. No Stim, remember. He was canceled, and that's a GG from Hero. I absolutely love that, being able to capitalize on the fact, knowing there was no Stim, a bit more ballsy with the Prism, with the Stalkers repositioning, to be able to get the focus fire on the tanks and really just completely destroy that push before it even could get set up.
I thought Clem had so much more potential to get damage done, but I think that was as perfect an engagement as Hero could possibly take. Not only did he have that big gateway army coming in from the south side, but the Stalker is getting the full surround there on the top. That already looked really good. And then we have a shuttle come in with 2 Immortals on the left side. They both drop in range of basically every single siege tank.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about an execution move. That was just the dream engagement for a Hero who knew he was in a good position, already taking down so many critical units. He's going to be the first player to advance from Group B.
Yeah, not too unexpected. I mean, I actually kind of did think Clem would maybe go a little bit closer to it, but we do have RSL merchandise as well, by the way. If you love our wonderful little tournament, then why not try to get a cool little mug or cool little switch?
Yeah, if you support the RSL on Patreon, of course, you will get a 20% discount on all Tasteless TV merch. That is at tastelessthreads.com, and they have a lot more than what you see on screen. Of course, the RSL Revival, the mug, the hoodie, the shirt. Very cool, but there's a lot of just RTS and StarCraft 2 focused shirts. Like, I think Tasteless came into the studio today wearing like the APM one or something like that. Anyway, we are in for a lot more games here today. We have 2 series left, guys. We're going to go to a short break. When we get back, the losers match here in Group B. We'll see you in a minute.
Welcome back, everybody. Tasteless stepping back in here. We're going to give State a little break. Gemini will be casting with me.
Yep.
We're going to be doing the losers match. That is SOS versus Zoun. Glad to have you down here today, man.
Yeah.
For day one, we had a couple. I've said this before, but whenever you do an event like this, there's always like a couple things that go wrong. Usually on the first day, we had our audio mixer crash, so that was scary. We ended up restarting it. It's working, but we thought, okay, for today, we're going to have a new audio mixer delivered here. Okay. They said they could be here at 4 p.m. We're like, okay, well, that's a little bit right before the show starts. The driver pulls up, and he hands us, this delivery guy, a poster of Timothy Chalamet. What the fuck? We go, what is this? And he goes, oh, I think I gave you guys the wrong package. So apparently there's some 16-year-old girl in Gangnam at a birthday party that has our audio mixer right now.
They just got the sickest birthday present of their life.
I think he's delivering it over here now. But we're using the old audio mixer from earlier.
Oh, boy.
So anyways, by tomorrow we're going to have a new audio mixer. Good to go. Although we didn't have any crashes here today, but that's exciting. But I thought you'd like that story.
That's the most... Imagine that, like you're like at your Sweet 16 or whatever, and you're like, oh, I love Timothy Chalamet. Oh, he was so good in Dune.
They're probably casting their own tournament right now with our audio mixer that we ordered. So yeah, that should be here tomorrow. We're hoping to kind of every day that we do this broadcast try to improve and enhance stuff. But so far this has been going smoothly. It's been great. How was that previous series? I didn't get to see all of it.
It was nice. It was pretty short though. Hero honestly actually overperforming a little bit compared to what I thought, or maybe Clem underperforming a little bit. I felt like Clem was going to maybe be a little bit more combative, but I mean, yeah, Hero just looks super solid, so it's gonna be pretty cool to be able to see him in the playoffs later as well. Yeah.
Clem looking solid, but I don't know. I mean, Hero's just on another level right now. We're going to be going into our game. It's going to be game one here on Ley Lines. SOS and Zoun. One of these guys is going to get eliminated. If I had to bet on one loser, I think SOS maybe. He doesn't seem to be in quite the same form. Some of that brilliance is still there, but Zoun especially in very, very good condition today.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a bit rough. And, you know, on the top right, we got SOS over here. And then on the bottom left, it is going to be Zoun. So I would agree with your assessment. I feel like SOS so far has had a pretty decent return since kind of unretiring a little bit after the military. And I think the thing that if he was able to get through the playoffs, I think PvP is how he's going to do it. There's definitely a lot of, little memes and tricks that you can try to pull in a PvP that will be a little bit easier to fool the opponent if they're a little bit better than you than in the other matchups. So SOS, of course, the famous one for all these kind of interesting tricks. I always think back to the classic proxy nexus recall DT strategy from GSL way back. That is probably one of the most iconic.
Maybe my favorite game ever.
It's insane, like just even thinking of that. That's something that you think of to do when you're smurfing against a platinum player or something like that. Like there's no world where that should have worked in the GSL of all places.
I feel like that should really go down as one of the greatest games ever in history. Out of all games, like if you have any appreciation
even
for
normal sports,
it's kind of like, what was that, like what is it called in Street Fighter where like Daigo parries everyone it's just like such an iconic moment. That moment for SOS where he like uses a nexus to recall a probe to do like a DT, it's insane. So in this game, Zoun, by the way, he does this in every game, has a pylon block on the low ground, so no expand yet from SOS. Zoun has a very kind of control-oriented style of play, which kind of limits the number of maneuvers or moves or techs that his opponent can do. And he always starts out with the pylon down here just to make sure that he's in a game where no one's getting an expansion too quickly.
Yeah, and especially in this game as well, since SOS is gearing up to go for a one-gate expand. Actually, Suicide's the probe for the other probe. I honestly don't mind that whatsoever. That was actually pretty cheeky from Zoun, so that's kind of neat. But yeah, it is a one-gate expand coming out from SOS, so Zoun does want to try and delay that or mess up whatever plan that SOS wants to go for. But it will still be getting his Nexus down relatively early. Does go for a double sentry after as well, does SOS, so that's actually kind of cool. I'm expecting him to probably get a couple extra gateways after this, to make it so that he can defend any type of early push that might be coming. This is kind of like a semi-newish way to go about these 1-gate expands now that the energy recharge is in the game. It makes it so that way you can kind of just go and survive off of just a few sentries early compared to normal. But he actually will just go straight for a Stargate anyways. I'm literally lying to all of you. That's fine. I'm kind of surprised about that, actually. It's a double sentry. I think Zoun's going to equally be surprised about this.
Yeah, he's putting a little bit of pressure up here in the front. Kind of funny to see this is a game where it's actually Zoun that ends up with the blockage there at the entrance. He's going to try to come in once again. The pylon is still making from before, never got canceled. Oracle starting at a very late Nexus right now for Zoun. So, yeah, this is one of these unusual moments. I was just talking a minute ago about how Zoun likes his control play and basically always wants to make sure his Nexus gets up before his opponents. But SOS with a counter block, looking good.
Yeah, now this Hallucinated Phoenix is going to come in, confirm that there is an Oracle on the way from Zoun, so SOS will be preparing with that Phoenix. And I'll be honest, I think when Zoun walks in with this Oracle, the last thing he will be expecting is a Phoenix, because seeing what he's seen so far does not tell him whatsoever that this would be on the cards for SOS. And this is kind of what I was talking about. SOS is the guy that will just kind of bring out these kind of wonky strats, just a little bit tweaks here and there to make it so that way he will get favored advantages wherever he wants. But unfortunately, the Phoenix is going off into nowhere. It's just running over to Siberia as the Oracle comes in right into the middle anyway, so it will still be able to get in. Is there a battery in the main? Okay, there is, so that's actually totally fine. So he will be able to at least kill it. Doesn't want to lose too many probes there. The
you know these moments where you're like, can I think I can land this and I can get away, and then like, somehow you get too deep into it, but you're not going to be able to cancel or get back out. That was that moment. So we almost never see that actually happen, where the Oracle is killed off trying to stun the workers. Anyways, I mean, we've got SOS now moving out on the map. I'm not clear on what exactly is back at home here for Zoun. He has these 2 Adepts, which I think he wants to try to do a quick run by here. Yeah, I don't know about that force field, but
the most ambitious force field of all time.
Yeah. The Adepts are going to be shaded over here, and looks like he's going to try to send this one in. I think he's not going to get too far with this.
Yeah, this is just really kind of trying to delay as much as possible with Zoun and just continue to create havoc wherever he can. And it honestly looked like SOS was even going to walk across the map a little bit after defending, but I think after being kind of distracted for there for it a little bit, he's kind of thought against it, and we'll just be going for his own third base anyways. And we'll even be going into a Mortal production afterwards with the Phoenix as well, so that's actually an interesting switch-up as well. Usually, of course, anytime in a professional PvP, you normally will just see the Blink transition no matter what, but since he committed so heavily in the Phoenix, which is also pretty it's not really standard right now, so it'll be interesting to see what he actually wants to go for with this. We'll go for the Twilight Council anyways. I'm actually expecting him to maybe just go charge Archon Immortal with this.
Yeah, he's going to try to glide through here with these 2 Phoenixes. This Oracle from SOS is going to come in here and get a lot of damage. It's like almost just perfectly positioned where it doesn't even have to move. It ends up mowing down at least 4 of those probes. The Phoenixes then end up taking a 5th one out. Nice play here by SOS. Both sides are going to have forges and therefore probably upgrades finishing at about the same time. There's the charge lot upgrade here for Zoun. And what's been a little bit of a tit-for-tat game here early on.
Yeah, I do like this, though, overall for SOS. I feel like he's been able to get some pretty good damage. Going for the Oracle after the Phoenixes is pretty unexpected from Zoun as well. You don't really just think that there's suddenly going to be a random Oracle appearing after you see like 3 or 4 Phoenixes on the map. So a nice little play there from SOS as well. And he will be going into that Charge Lot Immortal Archon, like I was mentioning, to just make a really strong, beefy ground army that will just not really die in any frontal engagements. And at this point, it's now going to be up to Zoun to realize this is happening, and then also be the one that's the most aggressive with his units. Since he's got the mobility with Stalkers blinking all over the place, he has the opportunity to split his opponent apart on the map and try to really force SOS into a weird kind of maybe base straighty situation, as that might end up being one of the only ways that SOS can actually take a fair fight.
So the Templar Archives is nearly done here for SOS. When you get this late in the game, if someone can get Archons before the other person, it's actually pretty huge. Where you have so many charge lots and everything like that. That being said, I've always found it frustrating in PvP that you kind of have to rely on where your charge lots pair with their enemies. You don't have a whole lot of, so much of StarCraft you can control perfectly, but with charge lots in that feature, it's kind of like, All right, I hope they can figure it out.
I don't trust them to do what they want because
Yeah.
I can't tell them to either. But let's just let's
That's
see how
one of
they
the odd
vibe.
things Blizzard did with StarCraft 2. It's like, well, let's take the control away from you for the Zealots.
Yeah, it is a bit awkward. Sometimes they just all funnel into the weird spot that you don't want them to, and just get zapped by 3 Archon shots, and you're like, well, okay, I guess I thought I was
lose.
ahead.
I guess
but
you're a better
apparently
player
not.
than me. That's cool. So we have 12 o'clock versus 6 o'clock and expanding. So right now, growth is mirrored on the map. And I think SOS is, he's going to actually move out. Nope, he faked me out there. I think he might have faked out Zoun too. He just types the observer there. And, I mean, to be honest, guys, it's been kind of a slow game here. You know, we're kind of waiting for the action to pick up, but I guess no side is really incentivized to attack into the other just yet.
Yeah, it's really hard because SOS, of course, like I said, is going for just the more beefy army style. He can't really afford to walk across the map without any sort of clear advantage. He does have an incredible army supply lead at the moment, but he doesn't quite maybe know that just yet. Maybe now is when he's going to finally put all the pieces together, and now that he's got his Warp Prism set up as well. So he was really kind of building up to this big attack, whereas Zoun, I think, was still kind of a little bit worried about maybe the Oracle is going to come in, maybe there's going to be Phoenix flying around somewhere. Wasn't really able to maybe pull SOS apart as much as he really probably should have tried to. And now they've completely missed each other as well. Now that Observer got picked off just a minute ago, means that Zoun is totally out of position for this attack, and SOS is priming to just A-move it down, and now we have the base trade coming in, which is what I was talking about earlier. So now this is all on Zoun to try and make as much chaos as possible so that way SOS's Doom push cannot find a win.
Yeah, I mean, this is wild. We can see SOS fractioning off different parts of his army. He needs to try to stop the income as quickly as possible, and it's the same story here for Zoun. He's going to come into the main right now. Unpowered gateways for SOS here. He's got to take the base out at the bottom center. He hasn't quite gotten over there. The base at the top center, already the probes are being evacuated. In this moment, we got to look at the minerals. 700 for SOS, a little bit over 1,000 for Zoun. Hidden nexuses or building in your opponent's base is certainly a possibility.
Yeah, and the other thing you got to keep track of where all these probes are actually headed. SOS only has 8 of them, and they are safely on the left side of the map. 27 alive here still for Zoun, and he just started to move those away over to the right side. So both players will get their probes out safely to try and get some sort of proxy nexuses and other random buildings set up, because this is just a full-on base trade that we've got going on right here. This is a bit uncharted territory maybe for both players. Every one of these types of games is different. The +2 also barely getting denied here is actually really critical in these fights, since it's going to be mostly just gateway units going against each other. And so those really start to swing the tides when you have those upgrades. +2 especially in PvP is very good for when you have the Archon shots splashing onto the extra charge slots. So getting that denied is excellent. Where are actually all these buildings getting placed is the question. SOS, of course, has the Nexus on the left, and they're just really just switching bases. They're on completely opposite sides of the map at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried, for SOS here, because there's 2 pylons way at the bottom, and he's going to try to attack up in here. There's a decent position here with the Archons. They're really melting a lot of these Zealots, but 3 Archons in the back here for Zoun. The Zealots eventually bleed through here for SOS. Always a good sign. The Archons begin to fall. 3 Immortals in the back. SOS has got this game. GG.
Nice. Yeah, an excellent play at the end there, realizing just what his army composition was. Like I said, a very beefy army to actually attack with. Zoun's whole plan is he wanted to really kind of pick him apart and find an opportunity where he can maybe shave off a few units here and there. Wasn't able to do that. SOS capitalizes on the moment where everything is together and knows he has the stronger fight in the armies, and was able to capitalize and just execute Zoun before he could really get anything more chaotic going.
Yeah, he chose the right angle to kind of move in there. And that's a kind of an unusual game there, because they went past each other like 2 ships in the night.
Yeah.
And then you could even see this moment. SOS sent like 5 Zealots in, and he kind of waited at this angle because he thought the counterattack was, or not the counterattack, but the army returning home. He wants to be at the right angle, because you want to have those Zealots kind of spread out in a way where like they should go to the best possible angle. But then the attack came right through there. We saw him push up into the main. They're both wiping each other out, but a really smart angle at the second move out to kind of get up there, wait for the Immortals to be in the right position. The Archons were getting their hits off before Zoun's were, and so, it was great engagement there. We're going to go to game 2 now.
Yep, I'm very excited to see again if the early game shenanigans are kind of working in SOS's favor, because that was really what gave him that lead in that game in the first place. The weird build going for the 1-gate expand with multiple sentries into a Stargate. Zoun clearly unexpected from that, so I'm curious if SOS has got any other tricks up his sleeve, and knowing that it is SOS, he probably has at least 50 of them, so I'm curious to see which one ends up popping out. And Zoun, it's going to be on him to maybe be a little bit more interesting with what he's got to come into this game, because that one, unfortunately, wasn't really, it just, I don't know, left a lot to be desired from Zoun, to be honest.
You know, it's important to remember that this was like a very Protoss-heavy group. It's just like Clem and then 3 Protosses. But if SOS wins here, he doesn't have to do any more PvPs. So if he's got any kind of special tricks or strategies or play styles, he could bring it out now and probably not have to worry about anything for a little bit now in this matchup. We have both players scouting each other. It's funny, each probe actually went to an opposite side of the middle of the map here, but they're both going to get in here. We could see Zoun once again just throw a blocking pylon down here where the Nexus would be. Zoun has gone for 2 gates, whereas SOS has gone for 1.
Yeah, he really does seem to prefer going for the 1-gate styles. I mean, it does kind of let you... it's kind of weird because, like, you wouldn't normally think it, but it actually dictates the pace of the game a little bit more if you are the one going for 1-gate, because it kind of forces the other player to respect that you're going 1-gate. Because if you're going 2-gate as against a 1-gating player, now you are in this awkward spot where you have to be like, well, if he just goes for a normal 1-gate expand, I am naturally behind. I'm not going to ever be able to get my economy up faster than him if he's going for the 1-gate. So I kind of have to be overly aggressive, but then the 1-gating player obviously will know that, and then they can also kind of manipulate their build a little bit to try and get a little advantage over on the opponent that is trying to get a little bit of a aggressive edge as well. So there's a lot of these weird little mind games with the 1-gate versus 2-gate plays, and obviously it seems like both these players kind of prefer going in their one way. So that does mean that whatever they do choose is probably going to be one of the better options if you are trying to learn a little bit about how to play this specific interaction.
So that pylon is there. Zoun can't get his base up for a little bit. SOS is going to be focusing on this expand here. And we don't see any definitive tech out just yet. You know, in a PvP, I guess Protoss in general, you're always kind of waiting for that cybernetic score to finish, and then it's like, all right, what kind of game is this going to be? Now, Zoun puts a proxy pylon actually very close to his opponent. Is this going to be, this could even be just 3-gate, maybe?
Yeah, it could even be a 4-gate, to be honest.
Yeah,
He's got 2 extra Stalkers coming. I'm curious to see what those next 2, if it's 6 Stalkers. I'm actually expecting it to be 6 Stalkers. There's an extra gateway right there as well. Going to be able to start to poke the front with some of these extra Stalkers. And since you've gone for the early sentries, it is a little bit finicky until that battery does finish. So SOS playing it nice and safe will be able to do that. And it is going to be just 4-gate, a straight up 4-gate. We're going back to Wings of Liberty for this one, just to bust down the front. And SOS clearly expecting something a little bit different this time, seeing how many Stalkers were out early, going for a fast Robo as his tech instead, giving him the best possible option to be able to defend against this very aggressive build.
Oh, man, he could use that money from that pylon warping in to try to help defend this. There is not a lot you get to do post this rush if it fails. So this game is going to be a very...
I love the idea to quickly recall. That's actually such a nice decision right there, but an excellent catch from SOS to be able to get those. That's not something you normally are able to get in this scenario. So a bit of a misplay from Zoun.
Yeah, that's a real hiccup in the whole momentum of the rush. Sorry, what is he warping?
An Adept.
An Adept. Oh, that's so
cute.
dirty.
That's cute.
I can't believe we're getting this vintage garbage build with the 4-gate here. This is like so cool to actually see this. Remember the first week of the beta, guys? Well, we're back.
Remember when Warpgate took like 30 seconds?
What is he doing? Why would you be out on the map right now?
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Okay, luckily only a sentry or so is lost, so that's not the worst thing that could have happened. I'm amazed it even ended up like that. The one Adept in the main base is going to distract Zoun a little bit, forcing one warp in. The battery is there. Force field's coming down here as well defensively, but just running right past is Zoun, the first Immortal getting killed off. The battery's trying to do their best as a second Immortal will pop out as well. Is this going to be enough from SOS as he's forced the probes as well to defend against this? He needs absolutely everything.
I love this probe in the fight right now with Zoun that's like somehow still alive. I mean, every Immortal that gets out, it's going to be harder and harder to hold this. I'm sorry, did he make a second one? No.
Yeah, that is the second one that just popped. The first one died. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
got it. No, I'm sorry, I meant a second Immortal with this one that's alive now.
He's going for a Prism afterwards.
Yeah, Prism's also fine. You can juggle with that. And, I mean, Zoun's going to try again here for Act 2.
Yeah, he's trying to go in now. He's going to try to go onto that Immortal, but the excellent force field from SOS, forcing so many of those units to be out of range from any type of focus fire. And you can see Zoun just kind of scrambling around, trying to get all of his units together. We'll be able to finally get some targets onto that Immortal, but an excellent pickup micro from SOS. We'll be able to keep that alive with barely any HP as the batteries continue to just barely heal up everything as well. It's so difficult for SOS, for Zoun to actually get any target fire onto this Immortal, but there's still so many Stalkers left over for him.
Somehow, he's making it work right now, this Immortal. Oh my god, he picks it up again!
Oh my god, the other battery at the top has barely any energy. Able to get at least a little bit of shield healing on there is excellent. So close with this Immortal every single time, finally loses it. That's the key to this whole defense right now. The probes, again, once being so important to body block all of this. Still more Stalkers rallying in from Zoun as another Immortal does pop out. If this thing dies, it's over for SOS at this point.
Yeah, he's got a second Immortal making. He's just squeaking out a little bit. It's funny how that battery that was blocking, anybody going up the ramp, it kind of ended up working out.
Yeah.
Kind of an MVP moment there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, now each of these batteries is just slowly regaining energy, which just gives you that much more sustain.
Yeah.
The Immortal, it wasn't designed with this in mind, but it is the perfect counter to Stalkers.
Yeah, for sure.
Even for the fact that the Stalker shots have to connect with his target, where the Immortal, it just shoots and the bullet's invisible and always connects.
Yeah, no, this is looking very good now for SOS. Look at all these batteries ripe with energy. They're actually kind of out of range of them, those two Stalkers, so we'll be able to juggle those back. You can see Zoun is really kind of panicking at this point. Whenever you see a Protoss player get a Sentry at this point in a rush, you know they're full-on desperate to try and get some kind of force field damage to trap the units, but that's not going to do anything. So many Immortals, so many batteries still alive, and that Prism, honestly the MVP of that entire fight. I was a little bit worried trying to sneak that out so early, but it ended up being the complete right play from SOS.
That was really well done. So we're going to have SOS versus Clem.
Zoun is out.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's not right. That sounds weird. I feel like I'm wrong.
Sometimes when I come into these days with groups, I kind of have my mind made up.
Yeah.
On who's gonna. I try to not do that, but every once in a while I'm like, no. I mean, obviously, Zoun's gonna get out. But man, I mean, SOS played extremely well. It does feel like if you take some time off and you come back, a lot of times the mirror matchups atrophy the least.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. You can kind of zone in on them pretty well.
Guys, listen, do the right thing. Be a good person. Go to patreon.com/ReviveSC2. RSL is community funded. We have goals set. If we can raise enough, we'll even rent out a live studio here in Seoul. With a live audience, excuse me. This is a studio in Seoul that we built right now. Whatever you can give, we appreciate. With each tier, we try to give you back a little bit more. I think the best bang for your buck is the Stalker tier. But this is the state StarCraft 2's in. We are in the hands of the community. And I've been a part of so many different esports ventures that basically fail because they don't, they either shoot too high and they can't sustain it. And what we wanted to do is get something that's sustainable. And the more the community supports it, the more we can do to improve the show and make it better. So consider signing up. It would mean the world to us.
Yeah. You don't need to buy dinner tonight. It's okay. Just throw $25 our way. It's totally fine.
$25
you can survive with a little less food.
There's instant ramen.
Your body is able to
You'll
do
be
that.
fine. Guys, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, the final best of 3 for the evening. We'll see you in a little bit. Welcome back, everybody. It's going to be our final match. I feel like this is moving really fast today.
Yeah, we've had some quick games. Clem versus SOS to round out the group. Only one of these players is going to be advancing into the next stage. That was a pretty explosive series, man. That was fun. I did not expect to see SOS defeat Zoun. I know Zoun, his PvP's been a little bit shaky, but a 2-0 really surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of exciting to see SOS playing that well. I hope he can hang versus Clem. I do feel like Clem is a whole different animal of a player.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see what he's got to offer. We've been talking about PvT a lot lately, and that it seems like, at least in my head, that you have to do some kind of a timing attack to get in there and close the game out. But Clem was kind of able to hang. I guess versus Hero, he was actually playing more the way I thought you're supposed to play, and that actually backfired. So when I was watching those games.
Yeah, I feel like Clem, he looks like he's at his best in TVP when he is not going for those timing attacks. Although, of course, if he's able to get some damage done and then just leverage that into a kill move, that is fantastic. But for me, like, you see Clem micro these armies that look so wonky because there's so many Widow Mines. You have all these Vikings. You got the Bio. You got the Siege Tanks. Yeah, they got the Ghosts. There's a million different things you need to do in like a 1 to 2 second span at the start of every engagement. And he is just somehow able to make it work while macroing perfectly at home. And so I feel like for Clem, like, just play the macro game, man. Like, you can kill these guys so well in the late game. We saw that against Zoun when he was trying to play this much more mineral-focused style, where if Clem got to basically a maxed army, Zoun just got flattened in those fights. And for SOS, I kind of don't expect him to try and play that macro style. I don't know exactly where he is at in PvP.
Actually, that's a good point, because he might just do his own weird approach to the game, or maybe he has some cool weird cheese. We'll see. But it's a good point, State, because I don't know how much the current meta has ever really impacted what SOS does. He's
basically never.
He's always sort of been out there. We're going to be going, into map number 1 here, and this is again our final best of 3 for the evening. One player is going to win and escape the group. The other player is going to be out.
All right, spawning in the top right, the red Terran Protoss. Terran Protoss player. Terran player. He also does play Protoss sometime, but not today. It is Clem. And down in the bottom left, our blue Protoss player. He is SOS.
Yeah, so, Clem seems to be very, very fine with kind of macroing, with scouting, with kind of seeing what SOS is up to. And, as far as SOS goes, I kind of gave up on ever predicting what exactly he's going to do, because he has had some of the most unusual and exceptional games. I was super hyped when he qualified for this tournament, because I think maybe a lot of people would agree with me. I kind of think of SOS as a player from a different era.
Yeah.
And I thought that era was kind of gone. And I respect it when pros, they say they're going to step away or they're going to quit, see if they want to do something else with their lives. But he's such a special player. It's so cool to have him back.
I don't even know. I'm trying to think back, because I was just the biggest SOS fan back in the day. I'm not even sure if he ever announced a retirement. I feel like if he did, I must have missed it. He just kind of quietly faded away after a while and stepped back from StarCraft 2. And over the past year or two, he's come back. It's been such a thrill to see him again. Clem going for the eBay block, by the way, here in the natural expansion. Only one probe pulled here. Okay, more probes now coming for SOS.
So he's going to send these 4 probes down here. And if you can get the SCV to skate off of there and then throw it back on, you just get so much more time, because the SCV and the eBay itself, they just build so fast. I don't know if he wants to try to come in here and do another dive. He's kind of orbiting with the probe, or the SCV, excuse me, so maybe he will try something. He's going to loop around and do a quick scout.
Yeah, hopping into the main base right now, but this SCV just going to have to vacate the expansion. 5 HP now on that guy, so he's going to go all the way back home. And for SOS, this was a little bit of a hiccup in the build order. He threw down the Nexus at 21 instead of 20, but besides that, I feel like he's probably going to be able to roll with the punches quite well and just transition into the mid-game that he's been planning. But really, what he executes in the mid-game is what I am so curious about, because SOS, he hasn't been playing too many games at like a GSL or RSL caliber of level, and so I haven't really gotten a full glimpse into where his PvT is at these days. And I'm just so curious, is he going to be following the meta of low gas, rapid rate of expansion, low tech units? Oh, wait, what do we have? This? Ooh, proxy starport.
Okay.
Hellion drop, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think he might be right about that. I mean, maybe he'd make a proxy banshee, but probably not, right? It's probably for a medevac.
Oh, SOS. For a moment, I thought we with the second monitor, and so the depth was mirrored image here for us casting. I thought it was going to spud that factory, but no, instead just be working its way over here into the natural expansion.
Yeah, so he's just going to keep the shade out here and try to poke in. If you could catch what's coming out of there, it looks like he barely missed the Hellion that was coming out. But yeah, let's keep our eye on this Adept, because if he just walks through this area,
he's gonna spot it,
and he's gonna get the closure by getting that SCV kill. No, he lives.
Yeah, just gonna allow that SCV to go back home. That SCV's been on a bit of a trial run so far in this game. Engineering Bay block and then a proxy starport, still gonna make it back home safely. And now that this has been scouted, I feel a lot safer here for SOS. He's able to get the shield battery up in the main base. Additional gateway units are being churned out. And there is still capability here for Clem to get some damage done, even if SOS is ready for this. But it probably won't be game-ending damage.
So he's going to try to come in here. Already some decent damage done onto this medevac. The Hellions are going to try to branch around here. They get a decent amount of damage, and the shield battery's healing some of these probes, but this damage is starting to add up. Perfect play there to target the medevac, and so the rest of the Hellions are going to be here. And yeah, he's going to be able to finally pick off that last one. But it's a really important moment there that he actually got that Hellion. Otherwise, he could have picked, the medevac, because otherwise he could have picked the Hellions up and tried to park that in the corner and just kind of stay there forever.
Yeah, but 7 probes going down is a little bit more than I expected for an SOS who had scouted the starport there. I'm not sure if we didn't have an energy recharge available there on the sentry. I feel like some force fields might have been really useful in that situation. But yeah, the shield battery, until you're able to whittle down the Hellion count from 4 to like 2, then you're able to actually really stop the damage coming in, stop the bleeding. But when there's 3 or 4 Hellions, of course, they're one-shotting probes. The shield battery is basically a non-factor, and so 7 probes in total going down. SOS a bit hampered economically here against Clem, and we're going to have to wait and see. Is Clem going to use this early economic lead to try and leverage into, say, some kind of timing attack? There's a little bit less production time on that starport, of course, because they had to fly all the way back home, but the factory's been churning out siege tank after siege tank. We do have an engineering bay in production, so if there's a timing attack, probably going to be lining up with +1 infantry weapons. Clem really has a lot of different branches that he can go from this position.
Yeah, you know, it's so far he seems to like slow cook the games here. You know, and in some ways I kind of like this. Like if you're not going to do some kind of crazy all in. Oh, that's funny. I didn't know the tank would block that entirely. He has to unsiege that to get the other one down. You know, I think if Terran is too greedy, like if you get a 3rd command center, I feel like he would just die to like Blinkstalker, right? It's almost like you got to play kind of slow and conservatively. And so you kind of just power up, you get all your upgrades, you take a very late 3rd, and you know, for the first couple of minutes, you're kind of disengaged from the game, I guess, other than the Hellion drop that we saw.
All right, well, Clem just kind of finishing out this tech tree. A lot of key upgrades coming in, +1 stim and combat shields. All quite well lined up for some potential aggression here. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's still just the 2 command centers. No 3rd command center in production just yet. And with the siege tank build mounting, we're going to have, 3 or 4 siege tanks here in just a moment.
Yeah.
SOS does have charge, but the splash damage, it's a little bit late tasteless.
By the way, you know, we were talking about him kind of slow cooking and you know, just sort of playing a kind of generic, like, I'm going to develop. You could actually, oh, never mind, he starts at 3rd command center. I was going to say, you also could actually, like, just pull SCVs and send them out. But
right. Now, I think that this is probably going to be some pressure levied here on the Protoss player, but it does appear that Clem is going to be hedging his bets at least a little bit. He has that 3rd command center. He's got pretty good upgrades coming in back at home. He was able to already execute some good economic damage onto an SOS who is not expanding that rapidly. He's also doing a probe cut as he's just macroing here on 3 gases. And trying to take this rock tower down by himself a little bit more time. So it's a little bit unlucky. Sacrificing themselves for the greater good there. And the first Colossus, it's about to pop. But Clem, there is a lot of firepower in this push.
Yeah, he's got...
Oh,
hold on. He's got to be careful. Okay, I thought for a second the Colossus was just going to walk into that. This should not be where the Colossus is going. It's always supposed to be in the back of your army, kind of as, you know, everything else is soaking damage so it can do that. But he kind of shimmied to the right. And, I mean, look, he's got some more shields back on it, but that's a half-health Colossus. Clem strayed a little bit too far away from his tanks here. And this Immortal's going to be able to come up here and just destroy that. But actually... SOS pulls back like maybe a second too soon. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered anyways. I think Clem might have actually, yeah, he just won. GG.
Wow.
That was an interesting interaction there because I don't like being too critical of players, but it seemed kind of like the movement from SOS was a little bit weird.
Yeah, when I initially saw that Colossus coming down the ramp, I thought he was going to pull it back to the natural expansion and try and set up some angle where, you can throw some Zealots the way that he did around the flank, try and get us around on the siege tanks, and then you hit the Terran from the natural ramp with the next wave of Warpins and that Colossus, and from the third base ramp with the Immortals and the rest of the gateway units there. Instead, it seemed like he just kind of decided the Colossus has to be with the main force. I need to support this. Maybe because there isn't Thermal Lance and he doesn't want to just attack in from the natural expansion with only one round of units. But Clem, even though he overextended maybe just a little bit and bled out those siege tanks, he had just enough with all those upgrades finishing, with Sim, with combat shields, with +1 infantry weapons, that the moment the Zealots had evaporated from the front line, suddenly the entire Protoss army is just this punching bag. Those Marauders, they do so much damage. Stalkers and Colossi, even Immortals to some degree against Bio, especially with how many Marines were mixed in, you do not want them to be absorbing the brunt of the Terran force, especially in such low numbers. I mean, he stutter stepped forward, and those high-tech units just immediately got taken down. And, I mean, we've seen this story for maybe 15 years now, where the Immortals and the Colossi fall into a handful of gateway units, and the Bio is just completely uncontested. So that is Clem able to take game number 1, and now we are on match point here in the final series of Group B. Clem, the red Terran, spawning in the top right. SOS, the blue Protoss player, down in the bottom left.
Protoss tier 1 units are when you get far enough in the game where Terran has Medivacs and concussive shell and stim, they're just obsolete. They're just terrible at fight. It's why you need to have a Colossus, you need to have an Immortal or something like that. And so having that Colossus a little bit too far out in the front, again, I don't know if he should have kept it back there. If there was time before the Terran push hit for him to do that. But yeah, I mean, you lose that and you basically lose the game.
Yeah, it's really tricky. If you want to play these gateway unit styles, you have to go for the really rapid rate of expansion. You need the very fast 4th base, the very fast 5th base, and to stay on only 3 Vespene Geysers, at least until maybe the 7 or 8 minute mark, because otherwise, usually you opt for these almost Creator-esque, again, because he loves to go for the high-tech units, very tech-focused plays, and then suddenly you're a lot less mobile. Your army only really works well as one cohesive unit. It's not something that functions very well unless you're trying to split. You can't split it across, say, a natural expansion, a 3rd base, and a 4th base, a Colossus-based army composition, right? It just generally doesn't work unless you have some big economic lead over your opponent. And, it wasn't as if SOS was trying to play a more tech-focused style. That was still just 3 gas, but the fact that the Hellion drop got, 7 or 8 probes so early on in the game?
Yeah.
Just the economy being so hindered there for SOS means that he just simply did not have enough money to invest into that meat shield and try and absorb the impact of the push.
A lot of times we talk about, the style or the build or the overarching strategy, but that was just kind of an army interaction loss. Maybe the Colossus spawns 2 seconds earlier and he gets it in position. Maybe we've got a different game. In this game, it's going to be a little bit slow to start. Both sides are just expanding. And we're going to see what kind of tech Protoss wants to have. We need to see the Robo, the Stargate, the Twilight Council, which is probably the most likely tech he'll choose here. And Terran, I mean, we'll see. Maybe Clem goes for some kind of a drop. He did the Hellion drop in the last game with a proxied starport. Maybe in this game, he does something like a Widowmine drop. We'll have to see.
Yeah, factory going to be going on that tech lab real quickly here for Clem. No starport just yet, and you can see a little bit of SOS's paranoia there, just scouting all over the map with that probe, now finally going back home. He does not want to be caught by surprise, especially given the fact that the first drop coming in from Clem in that previous game, the Hellion drop, it did get scouted, and it still did get so much probe damage done. Now for SOS, really, the harassment has been his biggest weakness so far in this entire group today. I'm thinking back to the games that he played versus Hero with the 4 Warp Prism drop, or not the 4 Warp Prism drop, but the 4 Adepts and the Prism getting so much damage done early on. And then it was kind of the same story there with those 4 Hellions in the medevac, just so many probes falling, and he kind of limps into the mid game and isn't really equipped to deal with what his opponent is throwing at him. Here in game number 2, so far, no wrenches thrown into the gears yet for SOS. He's going for charge. His macro has been uninterrupted. He's going to be posturing probably for a third base relatively quickly here. But you can see that he is playing a very conservative style of PBT. He's getting the Robo charge, I believe the third gateway as well, all before that third Nexus. And so he does not want to get derailed the same way that he did versus Hero earlier on in today and versus Clem in Game 1.
Yeah, things just continuing, down the path of development. This is a slightly more conservative approach here from SOS. Getting the Robo, getting the charge. Not rushing into a third base right away, different than what we've seen in some of the other PVTs we've had here. The Widowmine drop is inbound. He's going to be going across the map. We'll see if he ends up getting extra hits here. We had some pretty insane Widowmine drops from Clem here earlier, but the truth is with Widowmine drops, it's really dependent on how the Protoss reacts. It's not really up to the Terran to make the damage happen, I do feel like the Widowmine drop is just one of the most brutal things in StarCraft 2, like especially for people trying to learn the game. Because if you just don't catch it in time, it's like, oh, well.
Oh, yeah. At the pro level, we see it get 5 probes, and we're really surprised at this stage in StarCraft 2.
If you queue up a game on Battle.net, you'll be surprised how many probes you lose. If your screen's not in the right spot in that second, you are in trouble. He's going to go right over this, and this is a naked main, so he can drop 2 Widowmines in here. The probes are being pulled immediately.
That is not a full wall. All right, that was really dangerous there. For a moment, the Twilight Council might be a little bit too close to the simulator, and we're going to see every single probe fall.
Usually you can tell when things fall in StarCraft 2, but that is a little bit deceptive, the way those 2 buildings are next to each other. So, I mean, look, he gets 3 probes. He got the medevac out with the Widowmine in it. So that's going to be pretty annoying to deal with, honestly. We've got Stim. We've got combat shields being upgraded. Protoss is getting the 3rd Nexus. And right now, I'm looking at Clem. I mean, he's not missing any beats. I think SOS is still teching and developing fine. This is a game where it could just look like the last game.
If I'm not mistaken, Tasteless, we didn't have Blink actually start up for SOS after charge, right? So
I don't believe I saw it. Well, he also has 2 Stalkers, so it certainly doesn't look like he would invest in that, right? So Terran's getting that 3rd command center, but last game we saw Clem literally, he was even also in the top right part of the map, and SOS was in the bottom left. But it could just be another push out here.
Robe now coming in for SOS. I am so interested in the way that he is navigating his unit composition. The fact that we only have 3 Stalkers on the field and no Blink being researched is really cool, because he's playing, I want to say, this is a 3-gas style. He's adding an additional sentries. This is so ground-focused in PBT. I feel like we basically never see this. Blink completely forgoed here in the middle game. Stalker production completely forgoed.
Yeah, it's basically a damage comp.
Right.
Blink, it gives you the ability to finesse certain situations. If you see they're out of position, you can punish it really hard. But this is almost like, if I understand this correctly, it's like he just wants to come out and clobber this army. Now, that being said, Clem is setting up for a pretty complicated attack. He's got a push in the middle of the map, but he's going to do a drop. And I think, first of all, the drop, I think, can actually just destroy this. This is a huge drop coming in here.
Yeah, even one empty medevac there to absorb the brunt of the damage. Auto turret also coming in. We're going to have a recall of a lot of the forces, these 2 Immortals, but that's going to open the 3rd base up here for Clem to maneuver down. Guardian Shield is available here, as well as a ton of Zealots getting warped in. Hallucinated Zealot to try and absorb the Widowmine shots. I love that there from SOS, but there just isn't really enough meat to back it up. This Colossus all on its own against this bio. And the drops, they're coming back from the main base, along with the Raven all the way down here. This Colossus is going to be able to barely waddle its way into the natural expansion to safety, but Clem still has so much bio. The 3rd base goes down. There is no 4th here for SOS. And considering that SOS had foregone Blink, had delayed his Stalker production, it was basically building an army composition that was designed to stop a push. This is a huge blow.
Yeah, I mean, that's mission accomplished right there. He came in, he wiped the Nexus, he's retreated back. I was talking about this in earlier games. I love it when I see someone take a win and then they just run back and take a base. Now, SOS may try to tip the scale in his favor by coming here and hitting hard, but there's mines being planted. Oh, man, 2 Immortals and a Colossus is a lot. The mines are so perfect against the Zealots.
Yeah, Clem is really smart. There's so many mines.
Yeah.
I mean, most Protoss players these days, they're playing 3-gas styles, and so this is perfect. You see hallucinated probes to try and absorb the Widowmine shots, but the bio is just going to be able to take them down.
Oh, no.
He manually targets the Stalker.
That was perfect.
By the way, SOS warped in like 5 sentries behind all of this too, so there's a lot of force fields at his disposal. I think one of them might have even been energy recharge, but the fact there's no observer, Clem is seeing this army knocking on his front door. He's like, you know what? I don't care. You are not going to break me. I'm going to go for a triple medevac drop again.
So we have a situation where SOS's new base just finished. He doesn't even have probes saturating it. In fact, some are still long-distance mining. Clem just has way more. You know, it's not every moment where you can like probably attack in 2 different places and win both fights. You know, that's generally just a sign of how bad things are going. He's going to hit here again. Guardian Shield is triggered. The Vikings are just going to destroy this Colossus, and there is just so much here. I think it's going to be GG.
Man, the armor shredding missile adding insult to injury right there. That Guardian Shield mostly negated.
Yeah.
The Colossus and the Immortal trying to reinforce from the natural expansion, but they get surrounded. Even the Disruptor shot getting dodged perfectly there by Clem. GG, he's going to be the last player to advance from Group B.
Beautifully done. I thought that was going to be pretty one-sided. It was pretty one-sided. Like, I mean, SOS, it's always a treat to have him because of the history. I mean, obviously a former world player, but for a lot of people, it's their favorite, you know, RTS player ever, myself included in that. But, you know, we're in 2025. Clem just won EWC last year. You know, Clem made that look so easy. It's almost like it's one of these games where there's not as much to break down. Clem is bigger, faster, stronger, has better engages, has a better sense of you know where the game's going. And SOS, even though I think he had some games where he looked great today, he did not stand a chance against Clem. So
yeah. By the way, guys, thanks to our official broadcast partner here for Season 1 of the RSL Archon Studio, they are making the StarCraft tabletop miniature game. This is going to be releasing later on in this year. I mean, just
pre-orders later this year.
Pre-orders later this year. I am just so thrilled for this. I mean, wonderful to have them here supporting StarCraft 2 and finally getting a tabletop miniature game for the StarCraft universe. It's kind of crazy that we haven't had anything like this up until this point. I'm just vaguely aware of the tabletop miniatures universe because a lot of my friends, like people that cast these games, people that play strategy games, are oftentimes into it. But just the fact that we haven't had one for StarCraft 2 and now that it's going to be breaking onto the scene, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely check that out. We really appreciate their support. We also need your support. Go to the Patreon. It's patreon.com/ReviveSC2. This tournament is funded by the community. We will keep it going in whatever capacity the community wants it to go into. The bigger, the better. So we hope we've earned your support. We have different tiers depending on, you know, where you're at financially and how you can support us. But we appreciate it. We love StarCraft 2. This is a game that is aged like a fine wine. Every year we're learning more about it. We're unpacking more with it. And so we want to keep this going. We've also got cool merch, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, pins. Maybe you're a little bit of a rock and roller. Put some pins on your jacket. Yeah, maybe you put pins on the backpack. Thank you, Gemini. That was a good point.
Yeah, man.
And
Like you can do with the pin.
Where else can pins go? That's it.
Yeah, that's basically. It's not a very versatile item.
Yeah.
There's not a lot you can do with pins.
Maybe we could put some other cool merch up there. It's on my merch shop, tastelessthreads.com. We've got some other cool merch if you want there as well. This is our schedule, guys.
Yeah, we're here on Wednesday, the 18th. This is day 2 of the RSL. Things are a little bit compacted just because a lot of StarCraft has to be wrapped up before EWC at like kind of the end of the quote-unquote year for StarCraft 2, the end of the pro circuit of StarCraft 2 for 2025. And so we're kind of moving at lightning speed. It's going to be 3 weeks, although we do have next week off for Home Story Cup, of 4 days in a row. So a ton of action. June 17th to June 20th. Then is all the round of 16 group stage, and then we're going to a double elimination bracket. I think in the future, we're probably going to have a little bit more of a slow burn in terms of this, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and have a bit more of a kind of classical style of a lot of preparation for the players available.
Right.
But just given the nature of StarCraft 2 right now, we kind of have to move at this breakneck pace like everybody else in the scene.
So we're halfway through the round of 16 group phase here. Tomorrow is going to be a lot of fun, and for whatever reason, the way this was drawn, we always had one race-heavy group. So yesterday was like 3 Terrans. Today it was 3 Protosses. And tomorrow it's going to be 3 Zergs.
Yeah, we did a random
So
draw.
You guys know we didn't rig this set of groups because it's very one-dimensional in nature.
Just blame Gemini for the random draw, man. He was
That's
bad
right.
with the
Gemini's
RNG.
been banned from making group draws. We're sorry about that. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us here for this cast here in the RSL. We're going to be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Any closing thoughts, Steve?
No, man, this was a fantastic group. Honestly, one of the groups that I was looking the most forward to. Clem and Hero advancing is such a treat, but just a preview of like potentially a World Championship match here in the round of 16 of RSL was just so sick.
Guys, we love you. We will see you tomorrow. Take care, and bye-bye.